Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amishertha, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W., Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Is a physical place. Gravity is a container. You can measure your latitude on Earth by Foucault's pendulum, and pretty much shit like that, dude. Unbelievable claims. That's all.
And this was on Jaren's channel?
That was, I believe so, Debatism. Yeah, that was Jaren's, yep. And I don't know who the other kid, he did a pretty good job. Kaleb or Kaleb, whatever, I don't know. Looks like a youngster. He did a pretty good job. It wasn't too hard, given he was dealing with Greg.
Right.
Pretty bad. Pretty sad and funny at the same time. That's it, man.
We've heard Craig use the pendulum to locate location thing before. So, not new to us.
Yep. Gravity's a container. You know, horizon is a physical place. That type of shit, dude. Like stuff you can't believe.
Heliocentric model is stuff you can't believe, but
No, I can't believe that he was saying that. Like, you know, like really, dude, after all these years, after all these quote unquote debates, that's what you claim? Like, wow. And it was, you saw the results, right?
yeah, they all had a vote at the end, but that vote would be biased because Jaren has more FE people than the other side, right?
Well, it looked like in the chat, it looked like there was a lot of Globers. So I don't know. Yeah, probably. He's probably going to have more flat earthers, yeah.
Yeah, basically what he's saying, Nathan, is they had a vote who won the debate, and it was like 75% said the other guy, the FE guy, won.
Yeah,
That's to be
73 and 27, based on like 376 votes.
Yeah, but that's to be expected on an FE channel.
I guess.
I bet you
Still
if you go
making-
to Craig's channel, if he did the same thing, it would be the opposite.
Yeah, maybe. But still, dude, I don't know how to go. Yeah, it's so bad. Gravity is a container. Horizon is a physical place, and you can measure your latitude on Earth using Foucault's pendulum. I mean, what more do you need to say, dude? Like, stupid beyond belief.
What else are you gonna say though? If they say the Mr. Sensible answer, right, and then they lose, can't say that.
You can't say anything. Why debate? Why would they want to debate, dude?
Well,
What can you say as a glober? Say one thing intelligent as a glober, dude, in the defense of a globe. Say anything.
they gotta just stick with the rhetoric, and then that's it, no?
Well, which
They got
rhetoric? That's what I mean. Say anything, dude, in defense of a globe. Say anything that makes sense. There's nothing.
The globe measures to be flat.
Yeah.
But I remember. I'll give you an example, okay? Like, I was at church yesterday. We were all having lunch, and I was just talking to like two of them that were really close to me, and we were in a strong conversation. And I brought up the landings, right? Just the lunar landings. I showed a zoomed in picture of it right first, before I talked about it really. And I said, "What is this? What does this look like?" And they said it looks like, one of them said it looks like a furnace or something like that, right? And then I just kind of slowly zoom out and I show them, look what you're looking at. And two of them seen it, right? But then I remember when I showed it to like the pastor's wife, and I did the same thing. She said, well, I'm not a space engineer or something like that, or I don't know how that would work. And right away I knew, like, okay, don't go further with that. With, you know what I mean, with this person.
Yeah, bro. You don't want to be kicked out of the
Yeah.
church like many people were.
But that's what I mean. Like, some people like, and you know what? Not to like put them down or anything like that, but like I was there too, right? When I seen this information, I seen how phony baloney it was. I didn't know what to do with this information either. It took me about a year to get over that hump,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I guess show it to them in a year from now. If this is the first time they've seen it,
That's Yeah, I guess so.
it takes a
but
minute, bro.
but you see, this is like the main audience. You see, Uh, like the main audience, it's really hard for them to fathom that it couldn't be what the mainstream rhetoric is, right? So they don't have to do much. They just have to say it's a globe and that's it, pretty much. Or they have to say we went and that's it. Pretty much works. It's the reason I brought it up. Not to like poo-poo, my pastor's wife or anything like that, right? It just is what it is. And I've been there too. So I would be in that category also.
Well,
Or
do
was.
you do you guys ever bring up um, Genesis and stuff like that while you having
No,
your chat?
I wasn't having like anything like that. I was just like a
Do you
little
ever?
nugget.
Do you,
I never mentioned it.
okay.
But a lot of people, when they talk and stuff like that, or they might even preach, they might just use it within the heliocentric view without even thinking about it really, because that's how we were taught, right? But I
So
don't
you
go.
never,
I go on.
I was just gonna ask, so you never brought this topic to your
No,
to
I never. I
okay.
don't dare to.
I don't blame
No,
you, bro. I don't blame
bec- because I know some people just can't bear it. It just is what
you.
it
Yep.
is.
Yep.
It's not worth, like you said, getting kicked out of a church for that, or getting kicked out of a job for
But
that.
yeah, 100%, bro. But is it a type of church where you guys are having like intelligent conversations back and forth, like where other people are stating their opinions, or is it just mostly listening to a pastor who kind of preaches? And because there's some different churches, you know what I mean? Like they want people to be engaged, they want people to ask questions, their opinions about things. And some
Well,
places you just listen to a pastor when he preaches and tells you how it is.
well, you can talk and ask questions and stuff like that, but you still gotta realize where people are at. Just don't fight about things, right? Because God's word does teach us not to fight and argue. So you gotta do your part for that to happen also, or not to happen, whatever. So
Yeah,
I
well,
generally don't.
yeah, yeah. I mean, no arguing, but like, yeah, you gotta have your opinion. You know what I mean?
Well, I can,
And if you
I
can't bring it
yeah,
up in a place like
yeah,
that,
yeah, I can chat about certain things, right? But then there's certain things where we're like, oh, they can't bear this, right? Like the Lord Jesus said, hey, I have much more to say to you, but you cannot yet bear. Same with the Apostle Paul. He said, I couldn't speak unto you as in spiritual, but as unto carnal, right? So you got to realize you can only go so far, right, with certain things, and then they can't bear much more. You got to go with what they can bear. You got to stick with what you guys can get over, so to say, or whatever. And that's like that for everything with anybody you talk, right? Like, this will really puts it in perspective when you add, like, let's say family, right? When you add family members into the picture, all of a sudden you notice your tune changes if you care for them, right? Well, it should be like that for everybody. If you can do it with your family members, you can do it with everybody. Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure, bro. I understand what you're saying. It's a super sensitive topic, and you gotta be careful, yeah. If
Yeah,
you
because
care about, especially if you care about people's opinion about you, you know.
well,
But
it's not just that.
unfortunately,
If you care about them, that should be the thing. If you care about them,
If you care about what? Dumb?
If you care about dumb, yeah, who you talking to? You know, if you care about somebody, you'll talk a little bit differently with them, right?
I don't know. Maybe to each their own. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, like, yeah.
Well, let's use your wife for example. You care about your wife, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and because you love her, you would talk more carefully with her, right?
Yeah, but like I would talk 100% openly about everything, dude, with my wife and with my daughter and pretty much my whole family, you know, just that, like I said, like I don't bring this topic up anymore with some of my family members, knowing that they can't handle it, but I brought it up before and I always talk the same, you know, just because they can't handle it. Like, yeah, I don't bring it up anymore, but I definitely brought it up and I would do the same with, you know what I mean? If it comes up with anyone without
That's fine.
thinking how they're going to react and what they're going to think of me. You know, I lost that care a long time ago, dude. What someone's going to think of me. So I spoken with my daughter's teachers, spoken with her friends, I spoken with pretty much everyone. And yeah, a lot of people change their opinion about me. They're afraid of me. They don't want to come close to me. You know, simply because I talk about these topics. But hey, do I care? I really don't, man. But I understand you. You know, everybody's different. You don't want to. You don't want to. You know, people have that kind of opinion in the church where you're going to. I can totally understand that, bro. Like I said, it's
Yeah.
super sensitive topic,
It's
and
it's not that you can't
I don't
bring it
blame
up.
you.
It's not that I'm not saying that you can't bring it up. I'm just saying you got to be careful how you bring it up. You might have to test the water with some simpler stuff, right?
Yeah. So
Then
maybe
you
you
find
should have
out
tried something else rather than moon landing. You know, why show them a moon landing?
because
There's,
that's very simple. Like a lot of people don't believe in that stuff, right? And it's just very simple. I can just show them a picture, and then that tells me exactly where they are. It gives me a good gauge. Another method I used one time before was just kind of ask them about like what science is and how they understand that, and then that also tells me like a pretty good gauge of where they are and if I can proceed further.
yeah.
Just got to gauge people. That's what it is, and it doesn't mean like how do I put it? Yeah, I just got to gauge
I
people.
understand.
Like
I understand what
your
you mean.
intention is still to get this stuff out, but like you got to do it in a manner where like okay, start with the smaller, simpler things that can right that can register,
Yep.
and then work your way up. Does that make sense?
Totally, bro.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like ultimately, my ultimate intention would be to get.
Well, this is,
Yeah,
and
but
we're all,
we were like at two long tables, right? I was sitting on one side, the person and another person across. I don't know if others people are hurt or stuff like that. I knew if they didn't bother me because I was talking simple stuff. I wasn't going for the jugular, so to
yeah.
say. I was just testing the waters, right?
Yeah. So did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I totally understand that.
Yeah,
If
two of them
you
got
see
it.
if they get triggered, or if like how
Yeah.
they receive the information, or a simple question, you
Yeah.
can tell how they receive it. That's how you're gonna act. I totally understand what you're saying, bro.
Yeah, because I also use that quote from that CIA guy, right? We believe our what is it? Disinformation program is complete when everything the public believes is a lie,
Yep.
right? That was 1981 by that CIA director or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know, I'm like, yeah, you guys got to keep this in mind. If there's quotes like this flying around, you really got to question everything that's out there, right? And then I kind of use the landings as an example, right? Just to be like, hey, a lot of phony baloney, right?
When this person refracted talks, just let me know if the sound's better. I figured out that you've got a loop back into Discord, so you were coming out and then going back in again. The sound, which makes me think that could be
Wait a second, Nathan, you're coming in really choppy now.
now. What?
Yeah. You're kind of cutting off. Your sound is cutting off.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to
If
leave
it's a
Discord and
Discord, wait,
maybe
wait. No. Go to. Is your auto sensitivity in Discord?
again. Sorry.
Auto sensitivity and Discord sound settings.
Yeah, I turned it way up because you said I was too quiet, or Brian was.
No. Leave that in the middle and take it off automatic. So I think it is off automatic, and then leave the bar and slider in the middle. And then give us a mic check.
So the input sensitivity needs to be in the middle. That's where it is now.
Yeah, that's much better.
And then
Well, around the middle is good.
Sure.
Like, if you turn it all the way up, we'll start chopping. If you go down too much, it'll start letting too many sounds go through.
automatic gain control is ticked. So
Not
okay.
that automatic. Let me call it sensitivity.
Yeah.
Something sensitivity.
Yeah, or input sensitivity.
Yeah, that one near the middle.
Yeah, okay, that's near the middle now.
Sound better.
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right, ask a question again.
If that's good by you. Right.
Yeah.
Arwin or John, can you just give them a sound check?
Radio check 1 2 1 2.
We got
Copy
that.
Sounds all right.
Everything's good.
All righty
I
then.
didn't hear Arvin though.
Yeah, I think my hit in the dark, guessing what to change, caused more problems than it solved, but I have actually figured out what I needed to press to solve the problem. I've done that now. Hopefully it'll sound better.
And all right.
Hello,
And
can you hear me?
you were about to ask.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we can
hear
hear
you now.
you. Hello.
Yes, Arwin.
What was your question, Nathan? For the sound test.
That was it. It's done. Just can you hear them clearly? If you can hear Arwin and John clearly, then that problem has been resolved.
Yeah, but there was another question. I thought you were jumping in on the conversation we had.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, I was listening.
Well,
You were talking about telling your
all right.
pastor's wife about flat Earth, and then you were talking about moon landings and how you'd have that as a jumping off point. I was listening.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention FE at all. I don't dare to. I don't dare to. Just because I know the experience I've had with it, talking it with other people, right? And let's say I learned my lesson, right? It seems like everybody has to go through that period where they're just constantly blabbing about it, right? And then they realize, oh wow, it's not as easy to get this across as I thought it would be, right? Then you start realizing, reel it in a little bit. So since I've learned that lesson, I don't just go out talking. Just I don't know. My ultimate goal is to get there, but I try to take like little steps towards it.
Hey, Righteous, there's a book that you could. It might be a cool and different approach. You know how to share the knowledge and information with your church people. There's a cool book called Terra Firma, right, by David Wardlaw Scott. That has that's based on a lot of scriptures. What scriptures say about Earth, and obviously physical stuff.
Yeah, but that would be getting into it. Like, how do I put it? You see, I have nothing against my pastor or my pastor's wife. I have nothing against them.
Well, why didn't say I have anything against him? Like, you just want to share the truth with him. You know what I mean? Like, just like you can just give it to him. Like, hey, look, like I just found something interesting. I'd like you to look at it and just tell me what you think. Nothing. It's nothing offensive. You know what I mean? Like you're not trying to change his mind. You're not. Just share the book with him and see what he thinks. Ask for his opinion. Is what I would do if I was going to church.
I found the axiomatic way of approaching it working pretty good.
What's the axiomatic way?
You don't think levels curved, do you?
Was that rhetorical? Do I think levels curved? No, absolutely not.
Does anyone think levels curved?
Well, it all depends on your point of view, If the Earth has to be a ball, then yes, it is.
No, don't bring that up. There's no sense in bringing that up. Just ask them if levels curved. They'll look at you like you got 4 heads.
If the Earth is a ball, then yes.
Then level is curved. However, level is not curved, therefore Earth is not a ball.
That's
well, even if you want to consider,
all right.
Even if you want to consider level curves, Like, you can't consider it a ball then because you don't have the geometry to do it with anymore. So,
Yeah, good
yeah,
point.
Hey, you
it doesn't
only need
help.
to start out with the geometric consideration. You don't need to carry it through all the way, you know?
But you can't carry it through all the way. You immediately revoke it the moment you bend the straight line in the case of Al-Biruni that it measures the height of the mountain off. Well, the moment he climbs up that mountain to calculate the differential between the level he measured off and his new height, eye level, he's conjuring, with that differential calculation, a bent ground out of the flat ground he just measured. So it's paradoxically impossible.
Yeah, I
On a
think that was
ball,
just a straight up
everything is
contradiction.
possible.
Nobody believes level is curving. That's the thing, though. If you don't mention flat Earth, if you just ask them, they don't think that. Nobody does. It's only when you introduce the idea that the Earth's flat
Yeah,
will they
so,
try to bend level.
yeah, that's right. So if they suspect that there's a flat Earth involved somehow in the questioning, then they will say it. They think there's a flat earther listening, they will say it.
Well, don't say it to them.
I'm not saying anything to them.
Just
They
ask them
will
if
say
they
it.
think level's
If they
horizontal.
think or suspect
And
that there's
everybody
a
will say,
flat
yeah.
earther involved, they will say it.
We're talking about how to introduce this to someone. Like, introductory means that you've not had the conversation yet.
Yeah, but it won't be brought up then.
Yeah, you're trying to turn this into some baller scenario where we're battling an anti-flat earther and we're not in this circumstance, are we? And that's what he's trying to say to you. That may be relevant sometimes. In this scenario, it isn't.
Yeah, I don't know what else to do when you're going to ask.
You just
me
only know how to do
questions that are
bowling.
so straightforward that there's no like 1 + 1 is 2.
Why don't you say
Yeah,
no?
1 + 1 is
Level
2.
is not curved.
Yeah, but what about horizontal?
Well,
Are
everyone
horizontal
knows.
lines curved?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, like, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks level curves. Nobody thinks horizontal curves. Nobody thinks that.
I bet Ruif does. You underestimate how they actually do think those things that are absolutely idiotic. They do. And they feel honor for doing it because they have to.
When they're in this subject, they do. I agree. But when they're just themselves, not thinking about the shape of Earth, they don't think that.
But they don't think about those things at all. It doesn't come up. If it comes up, they will be reminded about flat Earth. They will start asserting that level is curved again.
Yeah, in
It's
a
just
flat
how
earth
it goes.
context.
As soon as you get into anywhere that's sort of measuring, they'll just get triggered from remembering flat earthers and say it, even if there's not a flat earther there.
Yeah, but on a sphere, you cannot have horizontal lines. That's the problem. You can do a horizontal line on a piece of paper, but not when it comes to the sphere.
Yeah,
Spheres
you
don't have
can.
horizontals.
You just have curvizontal, just like curved triangles. It's all curved. It's all good.
Yeah, aside from it being utterly nonsensical and based on Euclidean principles in the first instance, yes, you are right, Arwin. They will just take a principle set in stone and bend it, figuratively and literally.
Yeah, because they have to.
Yes. Yes, bendizontal is a necessity. It's stupid, but it's a necessity. And if you're in that position with the mindset of a anti-flat earther, then you will assert that. But what John's saying is, when you generally go through your day-to-day life, you will deal with the earth flat, but it won't be suddenly considered to be a cognitive break. It's not suddenly you're stuck in cognitive dissonance because you're dealing with the world flat. And this leaks when they deal with us, like the guy who claimed to be a scientist on Thursday. So he will leak out certain phraseologies that have never presented a cognitive break up until that point, like sea level. Well, up until that point, they're like, yeah, well, sea level. Level. Doesn't mean they don't think it's level. Until you say, right, so Earth's level. No, well, no, it's not. Then they have a cognitive break. But it takes us to point that out to them, for them to have that. Beyond that, but prior to that, they're just taking the world as it is, and if the world requires measuring flat, they will. Doesn't mean they'll give up on their sphere belief.
Right. Well, if they feel safe enough that they're still surrounded by globe believers, then they might just say, yeah, of course it's flat. Not realizing because they feel safe. They can say things are flat again because there's not a flat earther around. But if they're upset, if they have been obsessed enough with us, then they'll just take that flat earther in their mind with them. Because they'll be afraid that as soon as they just let down their guard and say things are flat again, that a flat earther will literally pop out of the stranger for the first time. So it all depends on how bad they got it, how paranoid they are.
But that's fine. Once you establish the axiom that level is horizontal, let that anti-flat earther pop out. They've already established the axiom with you.
Yeah, fair enough. You mean you got to start somewhere, right? With a flat plane.
You might as well start with axioms. I like it, John.
Well, it just keeps them from, begging the question later, is all it can do.
Well, the Earth isn't moving is even simpler axiom, isn't it?
I don't know, because you got to invoke Earth when you say that.
The Earth that we live on isn't moving. No one ever felt the Earth move. No one ever measured it to be moving. Isn't that the axiom? Why believe that it's moving?
Right, and I ain't saying that was not workable. I'm just saying that you're having to say the word Earth, so they're thinking of the whole Earth. And they're going to think of it as a ball when you do.
Well, I see what you're saying, but I guess the shape question can come later. We can still claim the Earth isn't moving. Because we didn't discuss the shape yet, right? But I can easily claim as an axiom that Earth isn't moving. No one ever felt it to be moving. No one measured it to be moving. The ground that we stand on, the Earth itself, without even talking about the shape first. It's a simple statement. Earth is not moving. No detectable movement of Earth. However you want to phrase it. It's an axiom,
Right,
if you ask me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
And where would it move? What do you mean move? Like an object would have to have space to move in. How's it gonna move? I'm pretty sure the Earth is stuck in the realm it is in.
Have you ever felt the earthquake?
I think the dirt
Well,
can
those
be
are local.
moved, but the whole thing isn't moving in relation to some space that surrounds it because it's not surrounded by some space. It's stuck within a volume, within a container. It's stuck. It's not gonna move. The dirt ain't moving It might be shaking around a bit, but it's not moving.
Right, we'll cover the Craig Kaleb debate on today's show.
Nice.
I missed the thing with Rachie. I went and listened back to it. Is she a baller or anti-flat earther now?
I don't know. I lost interest and unsubscribed. Gotta be honest.
Well, I listened to that Flatsoid episode where you come to correct him, but he was talking to Rachie, I think, wasn't he?
I think he's got a tete-a-tete with her going on, yeah. And his show was about a response to her.
Tatante. I like that. What is that?
A back and forth that's not necessarily friendly.
Oh, Flatside likes to hang around with all kinds of types these days.
Isn't he like me?
Tete-a-tete is face to
Has he
face.
got an open panel?
Yes.
Well, it's not like he's hanging around with all types. He's got an open door.
No, but he goes to other places, like the really, really dirty troll channels, and leaves nice comments there.
Does he? How do you
Yeah.
know?
Because I reviewed that yesterday. You're probably tinkering with your computer too much to notice.
Reviewed what?
I basically scolded Flatsoid for hanging around with very disgusting anti-flat earther trolls that make troll videos and commenting on that.
What do you mean by hanging around with them, though?
That's what you do. Hey, if you're going to give encouraging comments on really nasty anti-person troll videos, yeah. You're an idiot. You're white trash. I don't want to have anything to do with you at all.
Ooh, Flatsoid?
Yeah. Flatsoid, yeah.
Whatever.
Troll baiter, troll herder, troll collector.
Yeah, people
He
used to call
likes
me that.
people that are nasty and he keeps them around in his chat and he refuses to ban him. You can send him an official email and he won't do it.
His channel, he can
Yeah?
do what he wants.
Yeah, he can do what he wants. And he wants to hang around with troll scumbags that hate us.
Those are the people who hang around us, whether we want them to or not. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, he's friendly with them.
Okay, so what? Because he doesn't show him total disdain, that makes him a bad person?
Yeah.
Whatever.
He encourages them. He laughs with them. He attacks those that they attack because he's trying to pull a ranty. He's just, oh, I want this crowd. I want them. I want them on my side. More money, more fame. I'll be a total piece of trash, but hey, more numbers, right? That's what I think is happening there.
Whatever, pure conjecture.
Yeah, and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah, well, my tactic is not, oh, I'm angry. I'm going to. No. I'll just never, ever click his channel again. It's that simple. That's how I do that. That's how you should.
I'm glad you got that off your chest.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
afternoon.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello, good to have you all.
Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
welcome. Good stuff. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? Horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Well, it only existed in our considerations.
Only exists as a derivation of a flat plane measurement.
Right.
And it's below the surface level.
Yeah, it's the same argument. So to claim that you've got a geometric sphere edge, that's Earth curve, or to claim that the horizon is physical in any way to block things, you need to first derive the point based on a derivation calculation. It's laid bare in their own maths, with the calculation giving you that point when you have a differential between their surface level and horizontal in nature, and the eye level. That's what their maths does. That's Earth curve maths. So in the pre-show, we were discussing bendizontal and the absurd necessity for anti-flat earthers when they're confronted with us to decry certain axioms. Maybe you can pick up the reins from here, John. Shout out to Ben Smith for super chat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, normal people don't think that level and horizontal are different things. They deal with them the same. They think of them the same. It's only when they think of the entire earth does their religious training kick in, and they try to assert something that goes against that axiom.
Exactly. And when you can show it in their own mathematics as a principle that must be employed and is horizontal, level, straight, then there's not a great deal you can deny their own mathematics with. I mean, again, back to, I'm going to have to trim out some of these little sections from Thursday's show with our most recent fundamentalist religious globe-believing zealot, non-scientist lying wanker in that instance, because he would pull various different flat earth proofs from his argumentation when he put them to us. But when they were put back to him, in other words, when he claimed boats go over the horizon, he told me, oh, well, you're just talking stupid nonsense, when I described the differential calculation of surface level and eye level in their Earth curve mathematics. He's like, well, what are you talking about? What's your maths? Why are you asking me what I'm talking about? I'm telling you where you derive this Earth curve edge from. Your maths has surface level.
Did he deny that?
Well,
He said I was talking silly nonsense.
Sorry.
He said I was talking silly nonsense, and I put it to him that, well, you're suggesting that what I'm asking you to affirm, whether or not he appreciated that there's a differential between eye level and surface level, giving him the point that he claims boats go over, his response was, that's just stupid talk, or something like that. I said, well, okay, are you suggesting that the surface level differential with eye level in your maths is stupid? And he just shut down. Couldn't respond anymore.
Yeah, it is stupid to assert that as the Earth curve, you know? Like, it is a trap for them in so many ways. I got to go back and listen to that show.
Yeah, I'm going to trim loads of bits out of it, I'm sure of it. I've listened to it back twice already, and, you know, there was various bits that just had me laughing a lot. So D-Rose joins at one point, and we're taking the guy apart based on his claim of being a scientist, which he wasn't. And at the end of us summarising, everything goes silent for a couple of seconds. So D-Rose is perfectly within his rights to jump in and give his 2 pennyworth, right? Which he does. He's like, you can design the best possible robotically controlled arm that can give you the best ever hand job, and you can say there's a science to it, but it ain't science. He said it much better than I did. It was just, I don't remember him saying it when we were recording, but hearing it back, I just wet myself. I thought it was very funny. You can get the best jack off ever. Don't make it science. It's just a beautiful yet crude juxtaposition between technology and science with his descriptions. That's D Rose. So, you know, you just got to throw. So long as it's got the actual meat and I was going to say meat and two veg. So long as it's got the meat and potatoes of the point, which is science isn't technology, then, you know, you can throw in your crude humour and it works all the better. If you've just got the crude humour, then you'll be tutted at. Anyway, let's move on. Speaking of which, any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
What is gravity?
Much like the jack-off machine, there's no scientific evidence for gravity.
In order to have scientific evidence for something, first you need to establish something happening. So what's happening?
What's
A
happening?
deviation from the horizontal and the
gravity?
vertical.
Oh, we're talking about gravity here. What's actually happening?
Just told you. Did you not listen?
You
Did who
said
not
the
listen?
horizontal. What has that to do with horizontal?
Good question. So when you're asserting a downward vector, you're asking me what downward vectors have got to do with the horizontal, Arwin. Just have a think about that for a second.
I'm sorry, I didn't know gravity was a downward vector.
In Newtonian...
I thought I mentioned something happening, not, something...
excuse me, Mr.
was
Baldwin,
doing.
you are not the arbiter of ball belief. You realise this, right? Don't get too up on your high heels in this regard. You're not the arbiter of what ball believers suggest. And in Newtonian terms, yeah, you've got a downward vector.
And in Einsteinian, you have an apparent downward vector.
Yeah, if you're going to
Well, so it has something
Why
not
is everyone rumpusing
actually
this? Why isn't
apparently
everyone
happening.
slowly suckling
love
on
it.
this and digesting it? Right?
Yeah,
Right.
there's
Well,
a problem.
something apparently not actually happening is not something happening.
There's a bit of
So-
dissension in the ranks here, right? I don't know if you've picked up on this refracted curvature. Somehow, some why, people don't like the new hotness of you're going to need a flat earth for that. This doesn't just extend to Jaren.
There's
People
a
are like,
problem with that.
if you're going to claim 9.8 meters per second for gravity, it's referred to what? To a plane.
yeah, isn't that wonderful? Why is it that suddenly what was a long convoluted description of a path we took to understand how perspective has been turned into Earth curve with the newly titled begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, when you can just point out that it's got surface level in it? I am a lazy man. If there is a shortcut to pointing out where any, and I do mean any, globe-believing Muppet claim can be taken immediately back to a requirement for a flat Earth, I'm going to take it every single time. So while on Ballbusters people were sighing and tutting and moaning, I don't want to take it to that because I've learnt this complex stuff. It's like, I don't want you to, Brian, I heard you pipe a second ago, especially you, I don't want you to in any way infer that I'm suggesting you shouldn't be going through the complex details of the nitty-gritty for me to at the end say, yeah, but you're still going to need a flat Earth for that. That is not an attempt to undermine what you guys, you, QE, whoever's doing the investigation and the verbalization thereof. I'm not trying to undermine that which is absolutely required to take it to the next level and just say you're going to need a flat Earth for that. You still need the winding roads underneath the motorway. They form the foundation.
Yeah, I understand that. And I don't have a problem with saying you're going to need a flat Earth for that, with things like mean sea level and other things like that, orbital mechanics. I'm fine with that. But when it comes to what they're claiming to be a force of gravity, they're not dealing with it down and an up. If they say down, it's because they are not describing what the official claim is correctly. It's a pull towards the center, which is an in, or an away from the surface, which is an out. There is no down and up within the globe model because there is no reference for down. There's only a reference for in and a reference for out, into the center or out from the surface.
Well, when you make that as a claim, there's no way to tie it to reality without down.
I know. So if they say down, the point I'm making when it comes to that one, when it comes to that, unless there's is the maths like 9.81 meters per second, right? Is that dealing with a surface or an in?
That is
Flat surface or an
9.8
in?
meters. That's 9.8 meters per second downward acceleration.
Yep.
Yeah,
There's no way around this, Brian. There's no way around it. Well, almost everything. Well, I don't know what you're driving at, but I'm going to guess that you're suggesting that they do not tie these two things together. And were they to, because you're sort of stumbling around it, were they to say down, it's a mistake. They're not intentionally tying it when they've got an in, because it's a mass attracting mass force in the case of Newtonian gravitational forces, which they absolutely require. So at some point we'll infer. But even when they do, it's not down. Yeah. And that is how we deal with these fundies. However, there is no getting away from tying it to an axis or a plane of reference. Always. You're never going to get away from that, Brian. Them included.
I'm not saying that they can get away from that because they must refer to reality in 90% of what they claim. But but people often get this wrong. 9.81 meters per second squared, right? Charles Farron boys. People start saying, yeah, that's the rate at which things fall. But that's not gravity. Or, no, that is gravity. It's not gravity. It is gravity. No, that is a calculation based on the pre-assumption of a vacuum. It has nothing to do with reality. We don't live in a vacuum. Things don't all fall at that rate. It's a calculated rate. And that's why I wanted to know I'd want to know for sure that Boyes was talking about a flat surface and not center of mass. If someone says down, right, then you can say, okay, you're talking about down and up, that would be involved with a flat plane. But if I'm just iffy about that one point to do with that calculation and a force of gravity.
Right there's there. What did they measure to calculate that?
Well, he didn't measure anything. That's the point.
No, I do get what you're driving at, Brian.
In a vacuum. He did ball test in a vacuum, is what he did, and then he calculated it.
He calculated it, yeah, but he wouldn't for the calculation. The point is that he never needed to measure anything because it was only ever going to be a calculation.
Stop a second, stop. I've got to do this. I'm really sorry because this is good. Right, for the audience, you've mentioned CV Boys. Just for the ladies and gentlemen listening, just tell them who is CV Boys so they know who you're referring to.
CV Boys in 1896 is the person who is responsible for the calculation of 9.81 meters per second, which is a calculated rate of fall for all objects that fall in a vacuum. He wasn't referring to reality where we live in air pressure.
No, stop there. Perfect. I just need to expand on that slightly. So, commonly known, this description as what?
A description of all things falling due to a force of gravity.
Right. Newtonian was what I was fishing for. Gravity. So occasionally,
I don't say Newtonian, sorry.
It's Newtonian in name only. So Newtonian objected to this garbage, and you can find his writings in that respect. We're not going to go through that necessarily now. But what has been ascribed to Newtonian gravitation in terms of the force of in, just to keep Brian happy and quiet for the moment, is actually CV Boys, Reverend John Michel, and Cavendish gravity. So occasionally, either myself or Quantum Racer or someone else will drop that in, and in correction to somebody who will falsely ascribe it to its namesake, which is accurate. It is called Newtonian gravitation, right? That's its name. It's not Newton's. It's, in reality, Charles Vernon Boys, Reverend John Michel, and Cavendish. That's where this gravitation force of feel free to expand on that one, Brian, comes from. Not Newton.
Yeah, it's a pull to the center of mass of a sphere. So that's why their claim of a force of gravity within their paradigm is strongest at the surface and gets weaker as you go away. The thing about it is, I almost said it's weaker as you rise in elevation, but that would be over a flat plane. It was technically what they're claiming is not elevation. It's a distance from a surface in all directions.
But you said he was calculating fall rates in a vacuum.
That's correct. There's no getting away from it.
Maybe not.
That's not Brian's point. Let me just help Brian out, because I don't agree with you. My point is your point, John. They're always going to have to tie it to an axis, a surface, a reference plane. It's always going to be in the horizontal, in the vertical. You know, there's no getting around that. However, what Brian's saying is, for them, when they ascribe the force with the calculations, the fundy we oppose won't tie it to something that has a reference to reality. And this is possibly why we have the new hotness of Einsteinian bent force space-time, because there's very little to tie to reality, whereas in Newtonian there's plenty. It's just not done by our opponents, right, Brian? Is that what you're getting at? I'm reading between the lines a little bit.
Well, what I'm kind of getting at is our opponents, most of them, describe it wrong and describe it incorrectly. But that doesn't mean someone who's a little bit better than them wouldn't describe it correctly. I'm just saying, maybe I'm being a bit pedantic, but I just don't want somebody who has a PhD being able to correct you on that when you say you're going to need a flat earth for that. But if you're talking about CV boys 9.8 meters per second as a fall rate, then what is that fall rate in reference to?
Yeah, flat plane. You're not going to get around telling me that someone's going to be correcting me on that either. They ain't.
Okay,
right.
All right, walk away.
Because fall down, not fall up.
Even if it was fall up,
would be the same.
Wouldn't matter if it was fall up.
Oh, that's true. But it's still, it gives a direction of travel on in reference to horizontal.
Yeah, there happens to be downward bias that they assert in reference to horizontal. What's that in reference to horizontal? Game over.
It's called eccentricity in orbital mechanics. It's the gravity of these balls in space with reference to a flat plane.
You're going to need a flat earth for this. Now, I don't know if it's just extra stuff that people have to put a connection in between something that they've got an already established debating plan for. But, like I say, I'm a lazy man and this is easy.
Well, let me just give something that I'm just going to throw another cat amongst the pigeons, right? Now, I have to say this. What's likely to happen is flat earthers who don't have all the information in the background to these things will end up saying to some bowler, right? And this could happen more than one time. And it can happen in a debate. Are you going to need a flat earth for that? And the bowler says, why? And the flat earther can't answer it because he doesn't know why.
I see. Yeah, that's a problem.
He does.
That's a problem, but not my problem. In the same way I have disclaimed this in the positive many times previously. If you take ownership of the Black Swan argument and you concisely recite that argument to the detriment of your baller, there is no necessity for you to credit anybody. It, in that moment, becomes your argument. It's not QE's argument because he's not arguing it. You are. You take ownership of the argument. Very positive spin, right, Brian? However, if you, the flat earth numpty, hear this show and go, I heard Nathan take someone apart by telling them that they'd need a flat earth for that, ignoring the 45 straight minutes of 16 renditions of the same argument over and over again to the detriment of my sanity, while the globe opponent ignores it until he has to listen to it. And then I say, you will need a flat earth for Aristophanes' elevation angle or whatever it is that's being argued, right? Well, if you just take that and go, oh wow, that worked really well, and then you put in front of a baller and they say, gravity, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 and you go, you're going to need a flat earth for that, and they go, why? And you don't know, then that's you need to take ownership of that. You can't blame me for that failure on the part of some flat earth numpty that doesn't understand these arguments. My very reasoning for telling you earlier, Brian, the foundations of this motorway, you're going to need a flat earth for that, are built on the winding roads we've all been on. That's where the foundations lie.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to decry the use of it too much. I'm just saying that because it's so easy that people can get carried away with it, and they won't learn the important stuff that they need to back up that claim.
Yeah.
John, you can just say that, or Nathan, you can say that. But
that
totally
happens.
go on, John. Sorry, we're both as keen to say the same thing. I don't know. Go ahead.
That happens with like Coriolis effect, which on a greater level, I would say, because there's people in this arena that's been here how long that still are getting it wrong, you know? So it doesn't really matter about the argument. If you don't understand the meaning of what is being said and why it is being said, then yeah, like you shouldn't be arguing it.
Join and ask.
If you can.
I'm saying join and ask. If you hear it and go, wow, that was cool. That guy's head came off pretty quick with just the words, you'll need a flat earth for that. No, that's not going to be the case ever. There's a far more subtle build-up to these statements. But if you don't understand how that's been put into effect, either listen for longer or join and ask. Just say, why do you need a flat earth for gravity? I mean, we just literally went through it 2 seconds ago. That doesn't mean to say that the guy who's watching in the audience right now, like Rich Ruggs or Expedition Truth, it doesn't mean that that's sunk in, that you will require a flat plane of reference to describe it in the downward vector. But we can go through it. We can dumb it right down. No worries.
Well, when a bowler says that all things fall down at X rate, right? At that point, that is actually, as Arwen calls it, confessional debating.
Yep.
Because they are referencing reality.
Yep.
That is the thing. Well, that's wrong. It's the wrong way to describe what they're trying to claim. But they can't describe it. Their initial instinct is to describe it via reality.
Yeah.
When what they're talking about is not connected to it. But when they describe it as that, they're then referencing a flat plane.
Exactly. All things are referenced to a flat plane. All things are referenced to how they behave in reality. And in terms of how we're referencing things with respect to the horizontal or the horizon, we reference it to the horizontal and to the horizon. There isn't any sudden distinction that must make it ball-shaped to make it work. Quite the contrary. If you try and bend axioms like level and things go wrong pretty quickly. And that is true for the ball. People don't actually deal with the world as a ball. But when we again discussed this in the pre-show, when they invoke a flat plane, it doesn't, for whatever reason, suddenly invoke cognitive dissonance. It doesn't suddenly make them prick their own ears up and go, oh, did I just say Earth's flat? No, they do not. They just do it and get on with it. And then when it comes to going to the Church of Heliocentrism and discussing the space or watching a moon landing, they go, get their popcorn and just gobble it down. They're not going to suddenly go, hang on a second, didn't I just measure Earth flat earlier? No, they don't. Now, I had this experience with my sister. So she had several boats, and in order to take them out, she had to learn how to do celestial navigation. So when her late husband and I were on boats and she was holding her sextant and doing it and showing me how it worked, not that I was particularly interested at the time, little did I know how useful it would be later in life. Anyway, that aside, when that was being done, you fast forward to now, and having done it with my sister and her now deceased husband, her new husband and I get into the wrangle-dangle of celestial navigation when it was a relatively new subject a couple of years back. And while I'm discussing it with him, arguing with him, his name's David, my sister's nodding along. I'm like, why are you nodding along? She's like, well, you've done this with me. You've been on the boat while we've done this, right? And it suddenly all came flooding back. Now, her previous husband died in particularly unpleasant circumstances, so a lot of the stuff that we did together, I've blacked out my mind, like blocked it out. So suddenly all that stuff came rushing back in. Oh yeah, sunbathing on the decks of boats that you and also called Dave, coincidentally, both husbands called David. Made it easy for her, I guess. Anyway, but that particular Dave, as opposed to David, was doing this exact process with her. So she's not going to not nod along. She's been taught how to navigate flat. So there's no exception when I'm talking to her about drawing out circles and measuring angles to stars. She's nodding because that's how she's been taught to do it. But when she was taught to do it, she has at no point questioned the validity of the sphere Earth she thinks she's standing on. She's just learning how to navigate on a flat plane, and that's fine and dandy. No cognitive dissonance was ever present. Until I said, yeah, so you are actually navigating Earth flat then, aren't you? And the answer from my sister is yes, absolutely without question. Because she studied it, learnt it, and employed it when she was out on a boat, or boats. So from that perspective, there is no cognitive dissonance until we get here. This is my segue. And that's when you end up with people like Craig, fight the flat Earth. Now, I'm not entirely sure why Jaron would invite a convicted woman-beating criminal onto his show, but I mean, it takes all sorts, and obviously maybe Jaron was unaware that he's inviting woman-beater Craig onto his show to what? Promote the fact that he beats women and gets convicted by judges who describe him as outrageously violent? Maybe Jaron can let his audience know why he's putting outrageously violent woman-beater Craig on his show. But we'll critique it nonetheless. Maybe the same question could be asked of me, but I will disclaim before my audience that I absolutely do not approve with convicted violent criminal woman beater fight the flat Earth doing anything. Maybe being in jail, but that's up to the judge who described Craig as outrageously violent when he convicted him of a crime of outrageous violence. But there we go, that's up to Jaron, and who he has on his show is up to him, and it's come into my feed, something that we need to critique. So regardless of his outrageous violence, he's got stuff to say about the globe. Maybe he'll talk about beating women as well. I don't know. I haven't watched this, but we'll see. Anyway, any precursors to this? Anybody want to add before we start getting into the wrangle-dangle? Anybody know where we need to start as it's over 2 hours long? I'm going to guess if not. Is that a no? No, Nathan, feel free to start where you are. Okay, I will.
Nathan.
Oh,
Yeah. So around the 55 minutes mark, I did make a remark in the Master B Skype, but back then I was just 1 hour into the video, and it sounded great, but after that it was a downward spiral where the flat Earth Kaleb also showed that he does not have a very good grasp on science and the scientific method. So I think the meat of the conversation starts at around 55 minutes.
55 minutes, so I'm glad you're here.
Your equipment is being pulled by monkeys and being pulled in a certain direction that the fringe shift is happening. And as long as the mathematical model works out, that substantiates that monkeys are pulling the interferometry equipment. He's proved nothing. He's not following the scientific method as expected, for sure. I already expected you to do this exact same thing. You're just talking a lot and talking in a sense that doesn't prove what.
Okay, so as is always the case, please let Jaronism channel know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So we will get back into this in a moment, but just so the audience is aware what we're covering, it's Debatism, Craig, FTFE versus Kaleb, and it's on Jaronism's channel. So I've put a link in the live stream chat here and now, in the vain hope that should Jaron ever respond to us, he would do the same, share the love, maybe mention us specifically, like I'm doing for him now. So go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me on the Jaronism channel. Leave him a comment, give him a like, leave him some algorithmic love, as we as flat earthers, unilaterally, Jaron and I, receive none from YouTube whatsoever. So with Jaron or anybody else that we cover in this respect, who has a considerably larger audience than I, we would hope that we would be offered the similar algorithmic love that we are sharing with them now, or you specifically, talking to you in the audience, are sharing with them when you click on that link that's going by, and let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So please do that now. We will hopefully jabber on through the same call to action for a few more times while people do that, and then come back after leaving their little comment. And then hopefully we'll be back in business, unless anybody has actually got anything to add before I do get back into covering the video, as we should be doing, waiting for people to come back to the live stream. Almost 93 people. No, 93 people watching. Almost 100 people watching, I should say. Hopefully, a few of you will share the show. Smash that share button if you've just come back. Share this show. Get this algorithmic love as you're here already.
What you're claiming. You have to prove the physicality of gravitational lensing or waves affecting interferometry equipment. You've done nothing in that sort. You've just assumed, you've just begged the question, and you just making a mathematical model that is accurate does not prove gravitational lensing is affecting lasers. I think the audience can decide from the things that you've said and the things that I've asked that you did not do any of that. And all
That's not bad. He's doing quite well. This Kaleb guy. Who is he?
also, mathematical models
He's famous on
are
TikTok.
not proof.
Say again? I thought he was doing
He's
all right.
really famous on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, he
I
did
can
a
see
good
why.
job, and there were parts in the first 55 minutes where he grabs Craig by the balls. You know what I mean? But what is pertinent to our discussion is science and the scientific method, which is why I pointed out to 55 minutes. And make sure you listen up 57 minutes onward, where Kaleb pronounces that science does prove things, and anyone who thinks that science does not prove things is illogical, basically. And there was Jaren moderating the debate, who sides with the globe earther in saying that there are no scientific proofs or scientific proofs do not exist.
Okay. I mean, I like this guy already. I mean, I've only heard 30 seconds of him, but he seems really charismatic. He seems to know his stuff. So far, so good, at least. I mean, like I say, it's been limited amount of stuff that we've heard from him. But he's managed to sum up his position with respect to Craig's argument.
Well, one spoiler.
Just from his summary, I know what Craig's
There's one
argued.
spoiler.
Say again?
He might as well be an ether believer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to say that. It depends on what he's talking about interferometry.
Yeah, fair enough. It sounds like a response to Craig, though. Oh, I mean, I'm reading between the lines too early. Let's listen on.
Proof of anything. Math is descriptive, not explanatory. You must use English to explain anything that exists in reality. You cannot use math to definitively suggest the existence of any phenomena or claimed phenomena or physical thing in existence. You cannot use math. You must use words. So just because the math works out on the guess of the gravitational lensing affecting lasers in no way, shape, or form substantiates the bending and warping of spacetime or gravitational lensing caused by black holes hitting each other. Let's move on to the next point.
You do realize, Kaleb, though, that there's no such thing as scientific proof, right?
You don't think...
Why would anybody do it then? What clown.
Just that the laws of thermodynamics prove that high-pressure systems seek low-pressure systems?
That's not science. Okay, yeah, we're off to a bad start. You're right, Arthur. So Arthur's point is to say
I pointed it out in my comment.
Yeah. So his opening statement in respect to science was terrible from Craig. Science doesn't prove anything. Okay, why would anybody do any science for anything? Why claim science for anything? Why is it being used if it's not proof? Why say it? That's just some stupid statement that anti-flat earthers seem to want to make.
Saying that science doesn't prove anything is the most illogical. Hey, I'm talking. Are you just going to talk over me? You good?
I just wanted you to be aware that in science, there is no... The concept of proof...
I don't believe in that. I think science does prove things.
I don't care what you believe, but there is no such thing as scientific proof. If
Cool.
you're trying to prove in science, then you're not doing science. You're doing pseudoscience.
If you're proving things with science, you're doing pseudoscience, are you, Craig? Okay.
What's the definition of pseudoscience, Craig?
Something that doesn't follow the scientific method. There's no...
Right.
Uh-oh.
Way to snatch your own wing off, Dumbo.
proof in the scientific method.
So if we go through the scientific method, which is based in logic and establishes cause and effect reasoning, through a suppositional statement that A would cause B, and alternatively, A won't cause B, only one can be proven true. This is something I had to take Jaren through. Yeah? With the end of the process, Jaren going, well, you know, if you're proving your null, yeah, you're proving your null then. Bloody hell. Yeah, I don't know.
And right here, Nathan, right here, Craig uses the term the scientific method. He says the scientific method, but before it comes to this point, he was quoted saying that there is not one scientific method. It depends on the context, what you're talking about. And many people have many different versions of the scientific method. Some have 3 steps, some have 4 steps, likewise. And now he's talking about the scientific method.
Right. Yeah, but
it's
it's defining it within the context of what is pseudoscience. Well, pseudoscience is a much more useful definition because it's a claim of science which has not been through the scientific method. So it's much more specific. Well, that means that anything with the word science next to it that has not been through the method is pseudoscience. Well, then we need to get to the nitty-gritty of what the method is, and I've just detailed in terms of logical consistency. The outcome of an experiment can only either, one or the other, prove that A causes B, or prove that A doesn't cause B. Upon variation of a presumed cause, it either causes the phenomena you're studying, or it doesn't. But if it doesn't, you prove that it doesn't. And if it does, you prove that it does. In other words, there's only proof as an outcome in science. Craig's just a clown.
Yeah, but the only issue I'd have is when Kaleb was asked about it, this lad Kaleb was asked about it, he said, I believe. It's not a believe-disbelieve situation. There's no believe or disbelieve, because he then used what's the definition of pseudoscience, and Craig had to say anything that has not gone through scientific method. What's the point of scientific method? To prove things. So it's not a believe-disbelieve situation. It's a fact. Do you understand? So, and Craig said, I don't care about your beliefs. Yeah, because you can say that when someone just has a belief. So
Confidence
Kaleb,
thing. He's quite a young lad, so confidence thing.
Yeah, describe
Science
it
proves is a statement that requires a certain level of confidence in your understanding that it does prove things. But if you say, well, I believe that science proves things, no, you don't need to phrase it that way. You need to know damn well that it proves things and how it proves things. But he obviously doesn't, otherwise he wouldn't have said it in that way. You're right, Brian.
May I add?
Yeah, you may.
If Craig says that pseudoscience doesn't prove things and the scientific method doesn't prove things, then any claim that he makes, he's saying that he doesn't make a claim that proves anything. Then any globe claim can't be claiming proof. If no science in any form claims proof, according to Craig, then any claim he makes can't fall under proof. He'll have to say, anything I say is not proven.
Yeah, but what he didn't add to that statement was, until I need to lend credence to a claim I'm making, then I'll absolutely steal valor from science and say science has proven something. These people are double speakers.
Well, science is dualistic in its very nature. It either proves or disproves, right? You either prove your alternative or prove your null, which is disproving your alternative, right? So it does both.
Yeah, it automatically disproves, rules out the alternative if you prove the null, and likewise, you automatically rule out the null if you prove the alternative. That is how it works. You're automatically proving one as true and disproving / ruling out the other as not possible. If A causes B, then it cannot simultaneously not cause B. Well, your supposition hypothesis has both. It says A causes B and A doesn't cause B. Well, which one is it? Well, let's find out. Dun, 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 dun. Experiment time. And then you vary A and see if it causes B or not. You vary A, sod all happens. Oh, well, that's a failure. Nope. There's a big tick being put next to the null hypothesis in that scenario. You proved the null. Proof.
I think
Craig? Yeah,
that's the
science
part
doesn't
that
prove
he
anything. It's all it does. He's a Dumbo. It's the only thing it does. It's only proving things if performed correctly.
Surprised
I
that you
think
could
that's the
find
part they missed, that the no is proven. No, the no is proof. You prove the no. I think they only think that science work when they prove the alternative, and that's not how it works.
No, he's
And
not saying
and
that.
then
No. He's saying it can't prove anything. He's saying it does not prove. Full stop. Utterly absurd.
Right, there is no such thing as scientific proof. Like what?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. In fact, almost verbatim.
So there is no proof things are false. So it's not disproven.
Yeah,
there must be no such thing as a physical phenomenon either, because he had none. All he had was predictions based upon mathematical studies, and he's supposed to say that's supposed to be your proof. No, that's not proof. Neither.
The reason
is a reification.
The reason people like Craig employ this, you might go, oh, well, this seems absurd and self-defeating. Why would you do this? Well, if you're a con artist, I gave the example a couple of weeks ago as somebody who'd not been through a jury process. So we're going to say that the jury process is analogous to science. And you turn around and tell people that a man has been convicted of a crime and that he should go to jail because he's been through the court process. And then you find out he hasn't been through the court process. Well, what you need to do if you're that guy telling somebody else that a man is guilty of a crime and has been through the court process, right? If you're in suspicion that somebody might call you out as having not been through the court process, you decry the very process that you're stealing valor from in the first instance, just in case you get called out. So you say, the court process isn't worth shit anyway. It's never going to prove anything. It's never going to prove that somebody's been doing the crime they've been done. It doesn't prove things. Like, all right, okay, well, why do you constantly walk around telling people that you've got court processes for these things? Now let's just use the proper terminology. They do the same with science. That is to say, they will tell you, Craig being one of them, that he's got science for this and that and the other. But knowing full well that his opponent will challenge the validity of his claim to be science, he needs to get a get-out-of-jail-free card on the table before that happens. By saying, well, no, science isn't claiming to be proving anything. Science moves with the times. They're greasing the skids so that they can change their just-so stories currently being claimed as being science. So when they're demonstrably wrong, they can go, oh, science never was claiming to prove things. We're just giving people an idea of what things might be like. But now here's my science for the new shite I'm going to lie to you about. It's proven. Why? Well, because science. But you just said science doesn't prove it. Now we've got science for this new stuff. It's science. It's proof. Until it isn't, then I'll tell you that science isn't attempting to prove anything. Got it? Good. That's what charlatans do.
Okay. So
this analogy,
just because
this analogy of,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Nathan, I had to add. This analogy was from Flat Earth Debate 1933, where you were talking to me about the ether, and I remember it because I mirrored it on my channel also.
Yeah, it's hard to understand because it was a slightly different example because it was coincidentally about Jaren. Because with that example on that particular show, I do remember me giving you that example, but it wasn't the same. Because in that example, it's because Jaren's calling science out as scamming people, saying science doesn't prove things with slightly different motivations behind his words. So he's saying science, unlike Craig, science is trusted by Craig and not trusted by Jaren. But when I say science isn't trusted by Jaren, in reality, it should be the charlatans claiming to have gone through the court process, aka science, when they haven't. But when some scammer comes along and says a man's guilty, and you say, all right, guilty because he's been through the court process, and you go, yeah, court process, yeah, court process. But that doesn't actually mean that the guy stood in front of a jury and a judge and had due process. He just said the words court process, yeah? And that's been happening for ages. Jaren comes along and goes, oh, right, so you say he went through the court process, but he's clearly innocent when you said he was guilty. Hang the court process. The court process is evil. It's like, no, the court process wasn't being adhered to. Nobody went through the court process. They just said court process. And everyone suddenly believed that there was a bloody jury trial and a judge and due process. But in reality, Judge Dredd stepped off his motorbike, said I am the law, threw the man in jail, and when anybody asked if that was legit or not, Judge Dredd said yes, he went through the court process. And he didn't mean judge and jury and due process, he meant I am the law. That's what actually happened. So what does Jaren say to Judge Dredd? The court process is wrong! No, Judge Dredd's wrong. He isn't following the court process. And in this instance, the charlatans don't follow science. So what does Jaren turn around and do? Let's hang science! No, you clown. None of them have it. They just said it to convince you they had proof, and when it turns out they doesn't, it isn't science at fault. It's the charlatans stealing valor. Or in this case, the people like Craig, who figured out we've seen that trick. And they get ahead of the game by saying, science isn't even trying to prove anything. No, it can and does and only proves things. You just don't have any. You've got plenty of charlatans saying they've got science. But so long as you get ahead of the game by saying, oh, well, they weren't really trying to prove anything, well, then don't ever refer to them ever again, ever. Now, to my understanding, from what I've read, he's going to refer to Cavendish science later on in this garbage. So you can get latitude lines from it and various other garbage. Like, all right, so you'll lean on that experiment, will you? No, not cause and effect reasoning proving through systematic experimentation what caused a phenomena studied in nature. In other words, not science. But when that will be Craig's science, it'll be all the science he ever needs as proof for his point he's making. But he's getting ahead of the game with this guy because he can detect that he's going to call him out on his pseudoscience scams. So science isn't trying to prove anything.
You assume these. Let's move on to the next topic.
It's a bait and switch trick. It's just basically, oh, I have science. Science proves things. Do you understand what science is? Oh, you science or experiment? Well, let's have a look at it. Well, science it doesn't really prove anything. Science. There's no such thing as scientific proof, right? You do know that, right? He didn't know that.
Exactly.
You say you have science, but it doesn't prove anything. Don't worry about it. We don't got to look at it.
Yeah, and if it's wrong, that's no problem, because it wasn't claiming to be proof in the first place. So don't you worry your little head about it. Let's look at some other science. And we'll forget all about the fact that this isn't proving anything, because I'm going to be using that word, which you all understand means proof.
And then they convolute hypothesis with prediction, and then they use a flat earth predictive model and claim a mathematical proof of a globe. And that's pretty much the whole trick wrapped into one.
Yep, that's the whole story from start to finish to get you from a flat plane measurement onto a ball with the reification steps in between, and then the process of charlatans claiming they've got proof of the ball taken from flat plane measurements just by using one word, science, when people like Craig, who follow in the footsteps of charlatans, realise that they've been conned. They don't want to realise they've been conned. It's very embarrassing. So they convince themselves they haven't been conned, and that science was never trying to prove anything to begin with. Out to Duncan McLeod, or the super chat, says if science doesn't prove things, he can say, oh, so no scientific proof of gravity then. Yeah. I mean, there isn't anyway. He doesn't need to have a numpty affirming that science doesn't prove things to ask that question and have the answer be no. Thank you for the super chat, though. Really appreciate the support.
Move on because we've exhausted that same thing. So go ahead.
Sorry, what?
So let's move on to the next topic so we don't just keep going on that same thing. Whoever wants to bring up the topic, go ahead.
Okay. How do you prove the Earth's in motion when relativity assumes that you can't?
Well, relativity doesn't assume that you can't. It just assumes that particular experiments show that you can't.
Okay.
Are you which motion?
But show that you can, you mean prove. So within the next breath, Craig is saying that an experiment can show things. You mean prove. So I was right then. I called it. Craig will not only do that later down the line, he'll do it in the next smegging breath. Well, I've got an experiment to prove that. Have you, Craig? So, science doesn't prove things when your opponent's putting it to you that you haven't got any experimental validity. Next thing on the table is your experimental validity for your claim that you're about to make. Oh, I see. But Craig won't see any irony in this. Probably too busy beating women.
Are you talking about the motion around the sun or the motion around its own axis?
Do you actually claim that we can prove that the Earth is orbiting the sun?
Not without a flat plane, he can't. Orbital macro. Yeah, John, you take. I'm about to steal the thunder. You take the glory.
No. You're getting ready to destroy what I was getting ready to point out, but it needs to be pointed out before you destroy it. So Craig is asserting that there's an experiment that proves this. His opponent needs to tie him back to that and say, so what does your scientific experiment prove? Full stop.
Yeah, that would have been exactly where I went. Kaleb didn't go there. But he hasn't. We already covered this. We know why. He doesn't have the confidence in what science is, or he wouldn't have been disclaiming his belief in it proving things. And if he didn't disclaim his belief in proving it, when Craig says, I've got an experiment that proves things, 10 seconds after saying science can't prove. In fact, why didn't he catch this? I don't know. Maybe it's the excitement of being on Jaren's channel or something. I don't know. We can't read his mind. But yeah, should he not have said, hang on, if science ain't proving anything, what use is this experiment for proving things?
All observational evidence would suggest so.
What observational evidence would suggest that, Greg?
All the satellites we've put out there, all the parallax of the stars.
Okay, don't.
Evidence would be proof.
Hold on a second.
The use of the term evidence is proof.
Yes, indeed. Evidence and proof are synonyms. Again, numpty Craig. Did I hear parallax? Did he say parallax? Did Craig just say parallax?
You did.
Oh,
you did hear parallax.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame for Craig. Again, John, feel free to take this glory.
Parallax requires a flat plane of reference to assert the angles and their change. So you need a flat Earth for that.
You're saying parallax would be the difference in the angles that they measure. So with reference to a flat Earth, then? Go on, who's rumpusing this?
I was just supporting you to say that parallax, by its very definition, is the differential between two angles taken from a flat Earth. You then just calculate the difference of those two angles at different times of the year to get your parallax.
Oh, Craig, bless you. It's so nice of you to offer up these flat Earth proofs, like elevation angle measurements to stars and their differentials across seasons for parallax. You're going to need a flat Earth for that, Craig. How embarrassing. Not just beating women that's embarrassing for you, also the fact that you're utilising a flat plane for these parallax angles. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. See if Kaleb catches
I just want to add that parallax angles are elevation angles, so they're using right-angled triangles. So when they claim that elevation angles are not right-angled triangles, ask them about how parallax is done then. Because they're using right-angled triangles because they're elevation angles in parallax. So not only are they using a flat plane, they're also using a right-angled triangle, which means that they're not just using just two lines, which is just an angle. Elevation angles are very specific. They're always a right-angled triangle by definition.
Maybe as I've said, share the algorithmic love, go and let Jaren know, and timestamp it. 58 minutes and 20 seconds. You're going to need a flat Earth for that parallax measurement, Craig. You mean angles measured off a flat plane? Just really rub it in. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me to tell Craig at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And you're going to need a flat Earth for that parallax angle off a flat plane.
And
yeah, the love.
One at a time.
You asked, so I was going to give you a list.
Just one at a time. I'll destroy each point by point. How do satellites suggest we're orbiting around the sun, Craig? That's incredible. I've never heard that.
That is that very specific claim, but the orbital motions are derived from flat plane angles also.
I didn't hear what you said.
Because they can see it.
Because they can see it. So you have a video of us orbiting around the sun from a satellite?
There's videos in space that show the Earth and the sun doing the things that we expect them to do.
Are there? Craig thinks there's videos of orbital motion. I'd like to see those.
The video.
Well, DirecTV had a good one for 24 hours.
If I show you a video of my girlfriend dressed up as Bigfoot running around in a forest, does that prove that Bigfoot exists?
Why would you ask for the video to immediately dismiss the video? That is very dishonest.
Answer the question, Craig. If I show you a video, hold on, I'm talking. You're gonna. I know the start of my sentence interrupted the middle of yours. Okay.
Hey, that sounds familiar. Hey, do you like the show, Kaleb? That's a bit telling.
I think it was
the wrong way around, though.
It was the wrong way around, but still very telling.
But with just a little bit of refinement, I think Kaleb would be a lot more efficient in his butchery. Like, really, all we're watching is someone butcher a cow at this point.
I agree, but he definitely knows his way around the blade, doesn't he? I said that to start off with to kick off. I know this has been offered up by who offered this again? Oh, it was Arthur, wasn't it? This has been offered up by Arthur for critique of both Craig and Kaleb. However, he started strong, and he's quite a young. Maybe it's just my resolution, but he looks like a young lad. But he seems pretty sharp to me.
Yeah, but he should have. The better thing to do there is to say, let's see the video that Craig is claiming does something. Let's see this video. So then Craig has to go and get the video, or else say, well, I can't go get it now. So when he said, well, if I dress my girlfriend up as Bigfoot and film her in a forest, does that mean that Bigfoot exists? That allowed Craig to say, so you're dismissing the video. I mean, no, he'd be better off saying, let's see this video that you're claiming proves something. You know, then he has to produce this utter nonsense that he's going to produce.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Oh, yeah, I'd like to see that. But, you know, juxtaposing it with Bigfoot, fair enough, I suppose.
If I show you, answer the question, just yes or no. If I show you a video,
it wouldn't be.
How about a yes or a no? Or the Earth supposedly going around the sun, does that prove we orbit around the sun?
It's evidence for it.
Does it?
I would agree, Craig. God, I don't have to be bloody agreeing with Craig. If you show me orbits, then I'm going to believe in them. If you can show me them. They can't, though. There is no orbital motion to be observed. The closest you're going to come is them referring to a two-dimensional representation through a telescope of what some light in the sky does, namely a moon around another planet. What's a moon? What's a planet? How are they describing it in this two-dimensional view that we have? Well, it's described with Kepler's orbital mechanics. That's what we get. But those descriptions of things moving around are the things we do not get to see. Craig's saying, well, it's evidence, as Brian's just pointed out. Well, let's see it then. You think we've got evidence of Earth as a sphere moving around other stuff? I'll happily look at it, more than happily. And if you've got it, and that's what it actually is, then I'd accept it on the spot, wouldn't you? You'd be fooled not to.
Sorry for stepping in.
Well, if you pay attention to what he's saying, what he's saying, he's not even saying that he even have a video of that. He's saying he have a video of what you suspect to see. So it's not even a video of the Earth rolling around the sun like he's trying to make a claim of. He's saying what we suspect to see in the video. So you could just say anything. Like you could imagine it, you can imagine anything in the sky. We suspect to see the moon do this, or we suspect to see a light do this, or the not actual sun do this, and that proves that the Earth is revolving around the sun. That's not a video of the Earth literally revolving around the sun. That's why he need to make claims like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, what he's saying is that when he says, "This is what we'd expect to see," what he's actually saying is, "This is what I'm going to use to beg the question with."
Yes,
that's
precisely.
Exactly what he's saying.
Exactly. If I'm going to assume that the sun, when moving from horizon to horizon, is actually traversing a spherical surface in a spherical path, then I'll show you a sun rise and set, and use that to beg the question of a spherical surface. In other words, it'll show when it needs to show when I beg the question. Precisely, Brian.
Right, but the descriptions
Just one second, John. Go ahead, Joe. Reg. Yeah, Reg, Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's just basically affirming the consequence. It's just, this is what I suspect to see. Therefore, the Earth is revolving around the sun. We see the sun do this, so therefore the Earth is revolving around it. We see the moon do this, therefore the Earth That's what he do. That's what he does on his own videos. That's the videos that he was talking about.
No, absolutely correct. He's going to affirm the consequent. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. Absolutely spot on. Go ahead, John.
Well, I would like to address the P statement in that, because it's not necessarily the Earth, it's the plane of reference. Because these orbital motions are happening with respect to the plane of reference. So if the plane of reference, if I observe this motion from the plane of reference, then orbits.
Oh, right. This is genius. So rather than if P, then Q, Q, therefore P, what you're saying is it's if F, then Q, Q, therefore P. Let's make it B. So it's if B, then Q, Q, therefore B is the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. But John is suggesting that the thing they start with would normally be in this affirming the consequent. If Earth's a sphere, then we will see exactly what we expect in this video. We do see exactly what we would expect in this video, therefore Earth's a sphere. John saying, nah, Regron normally would be correct. He isn't. Because if Earth is a flat plane I can reference for angles for orbital motion, then Earth is in motion, as we see in this video that will show exactly what I expect. And we do see exactly what we expect in this video. Therefore, not Earth is a plane of reference capable of giving me angles for orbits, but Earth's a sphere. So it's if F flat, then video, therefore ball. Right, John?
Yeah, it's just complete non sequitur. It's fallen completely to pieces. There's no form to it.
Yeah, when you point out that they're not affirming the consequent of a sphere because they're using a flat Earth to affirm it with, it all falls to pieces even as a fallacy. Terrible. Go ahead, Arthur.
Why it makes sense in Craig's head is because he goes on to say that assumptions are an integral part of the scientific method. Now, there is a lot of confusion which arises out of that, and it is regarding very specific words. Like he says that assumption, that's what a hypothesis is, and Kaleb did not catch him on that it is a prediction, not an assumption. So there is a lot of confusion regarding these words, which is, I think, will come in a few minutes.
Well, that's not confusion. That's the fallacy of division. So to imply that something that is true of part is true of the whole, when in this case he's saying, well, in a hypothesis, which according to Craig proves nothing, it's science and it's not proving anything. Yeah, he's going to appeal to it later as forming the basis of hypothesis with a fallacy of division that says in the scientific method you have to assume something. Well, no, it's not an assumption. Craig's just wrong again. It's a supposition of cause yet to be validated, proven. It will be upon experimentation. But he's appealing to this after saying science proves nothing, right?
Prove it.
Science doesn't care about proof.
Okay, I already said I don't care. If you think that we don't prove things with science, we do.
No, science doesn't have proof. There's no such thing. No matter what you say, there is no such thing as...
Is it just me? Does he not hear the cognitive loop that he's stuck in? He's appealing to science and then simultaneously in the same sentence telling the opponent that science proves nothing.
Scientific proof.
Does the laws of thermodynamics, which is a science, prove that low-pressure systems seek high-pressure systems?
Well, that's not what it says. It says that entropy is always increase in a system that is reversible. But
not science.
Not science.
It's natural law.
Yeah, natural law.
And I think he just messed up the second law within they're misunderstandings. Because he said entropy is reversible, I think.
He said that Craig said he described it reasonably accurately. He said the entropy of a system would increase, and then the guy spoke over him, so I didn't hear the rest of the statement. But it sounded like he was pretty accurate to me. Well, I'm not going to call him out on it at this point. Let's put it that way.
Right. I thought he said, and it's reversible.
And maybe that's what Kaleb rumpused. I didn't catch that. Do you want me to spin it back?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that's what I thought I heard.
Well, that's not what it says. It says that entropy is always increase in a system that is reversible. But
there you go.
Oh my God.
Fight me the second law of thermodynamics, please.
The second law of thermodynamics talks about entropy, that there's dissipation or there's entropy to systems over time, that they become.
You cite me the actual law.
Do I have everything memorized in my head, Craig? You remember when you said?
They don't. Maybe admit to that. A bit of humility would be a really good standing point for people to trust you. Don't know, just say I don't know.
Said that earlier. Do you expect me to just memorize all the laws of thermodynamics?
Yes, if you're going to quote them.
Can you cite it? Cite it. Cite the second law.
You're the one citing it, not him. Oh, this has descended quickly.
Law of thermodynamics, Craig.
It says that entropy will always.
Wow, Craig fell for that. Okay, fine. Fair enough.
Yeah, why not?
What do you mean, why not? I wouldn't have. It's
He's off his game.
Say again?
Say he's
But
off
if
his
your
game. He
opponent
really
is
did
screwing
fall
up
for
that bad,
I know you, Owen. I was talking to Ron. Sorry, Owen. Go ahead. Ron. Reg. Joe.
No, I was saying, like, Craig is really off his game because he really did fall for that.
Yeah,
that reversal right there.
Yes, suck it in. I mean, there's us going, oh, God, our side's looking bad, burden of proof reversal, no, poor show, Kaleb. And then Craig just falls for it. You're like, I'm not going to cheer it, but, you know, for the same token, it's just going to be, oh, Craig, couldn't you have spotted that? Poor show on your part.
He didn't have to weaponize because the opponent is not hardcore like us. So he's like more comfortable. And then like, yeah, why not just answer him? It's like, oh, and now he can bring it closer to just a friendly conversation because the opponent is not as weaponized.
Well, it's just confidence. Like, you can hear it, right? So all I would hear in this Kaleb guy, who's my opponent, I know he's on our side, it's just for example, is him going, well, should I memorize it? Oh, so you're buggered, aren't you now? I know you're on the ropes. But Craig didn't seem to detect that. Fair enough.
In an ice system, but it has to be reversible. That's what it says. And
it has to be reversible.
Why do you keep saying it has to be reversible? What's he talking about? Anybody know what he's talking about?
Because he's going to invoke gravity as creating things later.
Okay.
He's talking about entropy, I think.
Yeah, saying entropy has to be reversible.
Yeah, he's trying to rebut Kaleb's argument that entropy is a proof of anything by saying that it is reversible. Sometimes it happens in one direction and sometimes in the other direction. So you cannot actually say for certain that it proves anything.
No, it doesn't. Entropy is reversible in the sense that you can reverse entropy. You can't. Life can empower more, change things, add energy, by using energy. Life can do that, but entropy only runs one way.
Yeah, it's called the arrow of time. I mean, the thing is, both of them are talking at cross purposes, and the guy who's like, well, do I need to know all this stuff, Kaleb? It's like, well, arguably you've got one over on your opponent with that line, but yeah, you really should, because you'd be pointing out what we're pointing out in this respect when he says it's got to be reversible 3 times. He just wants to slip that line in for his own motivation, which we may or may not find out on this live stream that we're critiquing it. But if you knew, you'd know and you'd call him on it.
But the it is reversible applies to how they have the formation of planets, nebulas, things like that within their model.
Gotcha.
So he has to throw it is reversible within it.
I mean, I didn't know. I didn't put that together.
Okay.
I didn't put that together.
I get that.
Go on, whoever that is.
That was me saying I don't understand what refracted just can you just elaborate on that a bit? Explain it to me again. I'm not getting why the need for reversibility.
Gravity is the claim that things are coming together, right? But entropy is in all directions, right?
It's not necessarily have a direction, does it?
Right. It's not a direction, but gravity is an assertion that things are being pulled to a point, right?
So kind of an anti-entropy force. Is that what he's going to try and
But that's what I think. That's what he's saying. He's saying gravity is an anti-entropy force. So therefore, he's got to infer that there's an anti-entropy, and he's doing it and reaffirming it over and over again, while Kaleb just, gets over the fact that he does know all about this, rather than.
So these are the hardest bits in a debate with something like Craig, because it's like trying to figure out the mind of a crackhead. You're not actually dealing with logic or anything. You're actually trying to figure out which way this numpty is going to try and pervert truth.
His pain, not mine.
Yeah, which is why I charge for debate.
It's a natural law, though. It's a natural law, though. Yeah, and in nature, we don't see this reversing. The entropy just increases; it doesn't go back.
Right.
You
can interfere.
That gravity. Craig says that gravity is the container.
Just 1 second,
He
Arthur.
actually
Sorry,
says that.
just 1 sec, Arthur. I just want to get this in because I don't want anybody to call us on it afterwards and say, well, no, there is something that can change entropy. No. You can get involved and change things. So if you imagine, this is one of Quantum Eraser's example, you drop a vase and it smashes into 1 million pieces. Can you then put a substantial amount of energy into putting it all back together again? Yes, you can. Could you describe that as reversal of entropy? You could.
No.
But it isn't.
No, it's not.
It's not reversal of entropy. That's what I was saying earlier. Even life can reverse entropy in that sense. If you're thinking of that, it's putting more energy in to something which is the opposite. But you're not reversing the entropy. The entropy in of itself is a process that goes. You can do things which will change the way in which entropy will be affected. You can put more into something, therefore it's going to change the rate of decay, putting it simply. But at no point is that reversing the entropy that's just occurred. Just changing something to allow a different type of entropy to take place on the thing you've just changed it to.
Right. The only way to overcome it is with information and energy.
And if he's going to try to invoke gravity, he's going to have to invoke gravity to be a natural force in order for him to say that could cause an effect to reverse entropy.
Yes, I think that's how this
cause and effect.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how this whole convoluted process is going to be tied up nicely in a bow by Craig shortly, because we've got cause and effect reasoning, science not proving anything, natural laws that are merely descriptions. So we can all see where this is heading.
Anybody hear me?
Anybody here?
Chocolate. I said low to you, Chocolate, but a few minutes ago, but it was just in the middle of other people talking. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
I didn't. I totally disrespected you. Right, let's get on with it.
We know is the entire universe. There is no other isolated systems.
How do we have a low pressure system next to a high pressure system, like our atmosphere, adjacent to each other, without a container?
We don't. That's a straw man.
We don't?
No, we don't.
What's happening then?
We have a gradient of pressure. That's it. There is more different.
So a gradiated pressure is still a pressure, which would require the antecedent consequent put to you by this Kaleb guy. So kind of gas pressure gradients without it pressing on something, without it first being gas pressure. So that's a delta X rebuttal. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that's not. He just claimed, for a start, he incorrectly claimed that it was a straw man, which is not. Now, the way Kaleb questioned it was, how can we have high pressure next to low pressure without a container in our atmosphere? Now, obviously, we're going to jump on the word atmosphere, right? But he shouldn't have said, how can we have? He should have asked him, within your paradigm, you are claiming that there's a high pressure next to a low pressure, and there isn't a container. All right. Craig said that's a straw man. Now, Craig knew what he was talking about, but Kaleb, the way he worded it, if you're listening to this, Kaleb, make sure you're very specific in who's making what claim. Don't just say it yourself, then you're making the claim for him. You give him what is the heliocentric claim. And when he says that's a straw man, which it isn't, that is the facts, right? They are claiming there is no container, right?
So
but what Craig did, hang on, let me finish. What Craig did then, after saying, which was a complete lie, that Kaleb just strawmanned him, he then answered him with a red herring. Kaleb didn't ask him about a gas pressure gradient. He asked about a gas pressure, not a gradient. The pressure itself. That's what he asked him about. And now Craig is going off to answer it by telling him about a gradient of pressure, which is, as you said, Nathan, delta X. Which, if you remember, Sabine Hasselfelder, on her video, one of her recent videos, corrected herself for making that claim because she was shown in the background that that's wrong. Because they're listening to people like us, that is not wrong. Just because you want to claim there's a gradient of gravity doesn't mean that the gradient of gravity is the cause of the gradient of the air pressure. She said, and she even said herself, if you think about it, it's absurd to make that claim. So.
Right, but the horizontal boundary of a gradient, how does that apply to spheres?
It doesn't.
I understand that point as well. I'm fully aware of that point, but I'm working purely off their claim because they're not claiming a flat plane, right? They're claiming a gradient, okay, but they don't realize they're claiming a flat plane at that point.
Like John's just pointing that out. You don't have to be hostile about it. It's not like we're saying you don't appreciate it, Brian. We're just saying it's always worth pointing out that in order to assert this gradation, he's going to reference it to sea level. That's a horizontal plane, a flat Earth. He will require for this. That's notwithstanding what you went through, Brian. Not at all. He has to be more careful. And for the Kaleb guy, right? I know Brian might seem harsh. He's very Irish, but he isn't. He's a lovely, lovely fella. He's not being harsh because he's saying you're wrong. He's saying that to sharpen your argument, you have to be hyper-specific about who's claiming what and how they're claiming it. In this instance, you and your globe claim infers that we have gas pressure next to a vacuum. That is not possible. As opposed to, how do we have gas pressure next to a vacuum? Oh, Kaleb, so we do have this then? No. Just be a bit more careful about how you phrase things. We're sharpening you up, not saying that you're dull, by the way. Right, Brian?
Yeah. I think a compliment thrown in every now and again for this kid is a good idea.
And you're a lovely-looking, handsome lad.
Difference in pressure between the base and the summit of Everest than there is the summit of Everest and the Kármán line.
Are you going to get the elevation of ground level, Everest level, Kármán line level? Are you going to need a flat plane to calculate all of those, Craig? Dun, dun,
I don't believe
dun.
Well, I have to say this now. Go on, Chocolate. I'll go after you. When you're going to say this.
Nah, I don't believe they're still saying that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, well, but I look where I go. Like, I mean, I wouldn't bring that topic up. I'd leave him bring up that topic. That's another thing. Leave them bring up their own nonsense, and then you just rebut it. But if a topic came up, I'd be very specific about pointing out that I bring them to. So you're claiming gravity gives weight to the air, then I bring straight to vacuum weights. It's over. The whole thing is over at that point. Now he'll do his best to try and make it not be over, but it is. At that exact point, there is no heliocentric model. It's over. Because they need that, like, a force of gravity to be their container for the air, right? But that takes away that stupid claim in the first place, but that vacuum weights take away that claim completely.
Basically, his question was really, how do you have a gas pressure gradient without a container? Forgetting that you need a container for pressure at all in the first place, Craig.
Yeah, but his red herring that Craig tried to throw up to get away from what you guys are talking about, he invoked a flat plane. So it's that flat plane versus flat plane again, you know?
Yeah, we're going to drill this. We are absolutely going to drill this for the next however long it takes for people to appreciate it. And no matter how much Brian fights us and tells us he already knows it, we're going to drill it through him anyway, Brian, as much as you might want to object.
Well, I know they need a flat plane because I know the Earth is flat. So I always know that.
I know. You're flexing your advanced understanding of undoing their assertions of how gas go down, go boom, boom would affect things. And you've got a practical example of a contradiction that utilizes the extraction of air from a chamber when weighing something. Now, that is pretty advanced. And like I say, I do not in any way want to discourage you from flexing those intellectual muscles in this regard, because the foundations of the highway that is Route 90, with us hollering at anti-flat earthers, you're going to need a flat earth for that Kármán line, because its height is referenced to sea level. You're going to need a flat earth to claim a gas pressure gradient and ask about what it would be doing at Everest's height with respect to sea level. You're going to need a flat earth for this. But you also need to understand how there's a practical example that Brian will give you in terms of what would occur if gas go down, go boom, boom in their gravitational nonsense. So, Brian, to show the utmost respect to what I appreciate you going through and me not studying, that's for sure, can you explain exactly that now to the audience?
Yeah, because what's happening is when you or John or whoever says you're going to need a flat plane for that, what that is proving a flat Earth, right? Whereas what I'm talking about is if gravity, right, gives weight to the air, what they call their atmosphere, and that is what keeps it to the surface of a sphere in a vacuum, right, then that means that that weight of air, if you remove that weight of air, an object must weigh less. But when you remove that air, that claimed weight of air, which you will do in a vacuum, and you weigh the same object in a vacuum that you weighed in air, the object in a vacuum always weighs more, because air is a medium that it does have buoyancy, but it doesn't have weight. So they need it to have weight, not buoyancy. Now, they'll try and jump on the buoyancy train stupidly, and they say, buoyancy, yeah. And they're trying, that's because of gravity. For completely missing that if you're claiming buoyancy, you're not claiming weight. Buoyancy is Archimedes' principle from 900 years prior to anyone claiming gravity. It has nothing to do with gravity, it was just hijacked, right? The point is that if what they're claiming, right, which is what they need to claim, which is that air has weight, if that's shown by practical example, and it is, right, with vacuum weights, to be completely untrue, that means they don't have any explanation for how air will stay and be at pressure and stay at pressure around the surface of a sphere or anything else in a vacuum uncontained by physical solid containment. That means the whole heliocentric model is over. So when I say that, I'm destroying the whole heliocentric model. It's over at that exact point. Now, some people may not understand why, but it's because if you don't have air being stuck to a ball at pressure in the vacuum, then you don't have any heliocentric model. But when you say that you're going to need, or John says, or someone else says, you're going to need a flat Earth for that gradient, then that's a proof that the Earth is flat, not a debunk of the globe. So one completely debunks the heliocentric model, not just the globe. The other proves that it's flat, or alludes to it being flat.
Absolutely. There's a distinct difference between showing how something cannot possibly work if Earth was a heliocentric sky vacuum-based ball model, and how their heliocentric ball-based model has been derived from a flat plane. They're very distinctly different things. One, for me at least, is easier to cut to the chase with. The other requires an exemplary understanding, which Brian exhibits. I'm just lazy. But, still excellent stuff, Brian.
Thank you.
Arthur, have we covered the majority of what you were hoping would be covered in terms of the scientific method misunderstandings between Kaleb and Craig, woman beater?
Yes, but it goes a downward spiral from here now, where Kaleb starts to display how he hasn't watched much of the flat earth debate or ball busters, but there can be two cases. Either he's in the process of watching your videos, or the other more dreadful option, possibility, is that he may be in touch with people like Witsit, who are feeding him all that electrostatic difference causing a downward vector, and that is actually gravity. It is decided by density and buoyancy equilibrium. He seems to have displayed that in the second half of this debate.
You really don't like the Etherites, do you, Arthur?
What downward vector?
There isn't a
I
downward
face a lot
vector.
of them. So
There
yeah.
isn't one. But yeah, Arthur, I admire your tenacity when it comes to your hatred of Etherites.
Okay.
So there's no immediate evacuation of the high pressure to the low pressure. It just isn't happening. But there
Well, that makes the model incorrect then, because second law of thermodynamics is a law of nature. Dispersion would occur. Gas fills space.
is categorically, in reality, a gradient of pressure that has been measured.
Can you show
Well, it hasn't got a vacuum above it, because it would be dispersing into it.
me a gradient of pressure of a pressurized system of gases and air without a container, Craig? Do you have one example of that?
Well,
good question. My guess will be he'll beg the question and point to the sky vacuum. Let's see if I'm right.
I've never said there's no container.
So you think there's a container to the Earth's atmosphere?
Well, everything is contained within the universe, and gravity specifically contains the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay.
Wow. Then we call that.
Gravity is the container. We haven't heard that in like 5 years.
But that is the claim that gravity is opposing entropy. That's
Right.
the reversibility. Here it comes.
That's why he needed to make that claim. That's why he
Gravity
said
is
it was
something that can be
reversible.
measured.
Okay, I'll ask again. I don't know how you didn't answer. Is gravity a physical thing? Yes or no, Craig?
Gravity creates a physical force.
No, it doesn't.
Gravity's not a force due to the general theory of relativity. It's no longer a force, Craig. You didn't know that?
Craig's completely triggered by these statements. That's why he's immediately talking through the top of him. He doesn't want to hear it.
Creates
That's
a
what
force.
he needs to tell him what he told us, that gravity creates gravity. Because that's the nonsense he came here and said to me.
That's correct.
Like, why did you say that?
But he did. He just said that there. He said it chocolate. He said gravity creates a force of gravity. So he said the same thing there. He just didn't get laughed out of it there like he did here.
Right.
Yeah. But this is why I talk about vacuum weights, because what he's doing now. So now they're going to have a discussion about gravity, as opposed to Kaleb asking him, because I'm not jumping all over Kaleb, I'm just giving an honest critique, is that what Kaleb needs to ask him is, are you claiming that this gravity you're talking about is giving weight to the air? And Craig's going to go, yeah. Then you go, so we'll define weight, right? Define weight, and then go straight to vacuum weights.
Perfect. Did you all catch that in the audience? This is why the foundations of Highway 90 are built on this sort of exemplary understanding. It's all well and good referencing a horizontal plane for them to give them the heights at Everest or the Kármán line, when Brian could have taken this debate specifically in this moment to that point. Does gravity give air weight? Yes, it does. Oh, right. So if I remove that weight pushing down on the scale of this item in a vacuum chamber, when I remove all the air, it's going to weigh less. Right, Brian?
He has to say yes. Well, I won't even say that. I'll first define weight. Well, let's define weight. And I'll go to the definition of weight, and he'll agree with all this, right? And I'll keep it up on screen. And then I'll say, so if I remove that air, it will weigh less, right? Because it has to. If you take the weight away, if I'm weighing something, a book, if I'm weighing 2 books and I take the top book away, the bottom book it's going to have to show less weight. And he'll have to say yes. He'll have to agree to all that, and then he'll point out that objects weighed in a vacuum, which is the removal of air, weigh more, and that's it. But you must go through those couple of steps and you must get to the definition of, because what he must do, the only thing he can do, even if he sees it coming, is try and convolute the definition of weight. And if he convolutes the definition of weight, then that also destroys his argument because he's not claiming weight then. He's trying to claim some other nonsense. Yeah, he can't.
He's just defined it by making the claim that gravity creates the containment. It creates the containment by creating weight on gas particles. That's his claim. That is the ball claim. When we was arguing with trying to show Arwin last week why this is a really good destruction for the baller, because it takes them straight to that fundamental. So no matter how they describe it, they are invoking that weight equals m times g, and that's what allows this gradient, the containment caused by gravity, by the invocation of weight on gas particles.
Exactly. It's playing them at their own game, Arwin. So rather than, oh, right, so gas go down, go boom, boom. No, it doesn't. That's absurd. Gas disperses, second law of thermodynamics. What have we got? Oh, well, gravitation reverses entropy. So then you got to have the exemplary understanding disseminated by Brian when you say, okay, so gas has got weight then. Gas go down, go boom, boom. No, because that will put them on the back foot. You just have to get them to take the logical steps through their rhetoric, which infers that gas has weight. Once you've got them there, you've got them by the balls, right, Brian?
Yeah, and you must keep it simple. Go through those steps, be methodical, and keep it simple. Because if you don't keep it simple, if you give them any route or any alleyway to convolute things, they will. And they want to talk about different types of gravity and what gravity does and how gravity works. They don't want to get in. They won't want to get into. We're claiming that the air has weight, right? It doesn't matter then what they're claiming is giving weight to the air. They're claiming air has weight, and then you go through the definition of weight, and then you can even use what Adam just said. What is the supposed cause of weight? W equals mg, right? He has to agree to all that. Then you go to vacuum weights and completely annihilate the whole heliocentric model. There is no heliocentric model after that. Literally at that point, the person who's after bringing them to vacuum weights, you can literally get up and say, thanks for the debate, goodbye. It's over. Because if you stay there, you're going to want to try and convolute things. The point is that there is no convolute. All he can do is claim buoyancy. And is buoyancy weight? No, buoyancy is buoyancy. Right? Regardless of what he wants to claim is the cause of buoyancy, doesn't mean anything, right? That's a not claim anyway, right? But that's just, they hijacked it. But the point is that buoyancy isn't weight.
But it still invokes weight. It invokes the RDD disequilibrium via m times g to give weight and then differentials of that. They still invoke m times g. Now, when that's fine and until you deal with gases, yeah, you're still getting that buoyant effect that should be there, because in doing so, they are, as ridiculous as it sounds, and you don't necessarily have to go there, go gas, go down, go boom, boom. You can take that at the point at the end. I will just keep reiterating that their fundamental statement is that air has weight. And you've got to get them to agree to that, because that's how it sticks to their ball. And once you've got them there, then Brian's weight in a vacuum destroys it. It just destroys it. They can have buoyancy. It still means weight. Weight meaning m times g.
Yeah, because they need it. See, just to add to it, Nathan, so people understand, when they are claiming buoyancy, what they're claiming is for a helium balloon to go up, then it's going up because the weight of their atmosphere is coming down, pushing it, displacing it up the way. So they're claiming that the air has weight to cause that. So their air must have weight, right? Their atmosphere must have weight to cause a helium balloon to go up the way.
Imagine it like bouncy balls, Brian. Just imagine bouncy balls being the gas, and you pour it into a fish tank. You get the idea.
Yeah.
So not down then, because that's what I hear whenever I hear buoyancy. Not down.
Not buoyancy is a hijack. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
But buoyancy was a hijack because they had. Sorry, come on.
I was just going to say, isn't that the reason that, like, people, when they get to the level of Neil deGrasse Tyson and they say, when they're asked what gravity is, they don't give a response, so they can't be pinned down like that?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
for the audience know about buoyancy. Buoyancy is Archimedes' principle, 900 years prior to anyone claiming anything to do with gravity, right? At least 900, if not more than 900. But it's definitely 900 years before Isaac Newton was born. So buoyancy is fully understand. It's a density differential. That's what it is. That's the cause of it. Density differential being the medium and the object. That's what buoyancy is. So they can claim that all day long, right? But buoyancy is not weight. Buoyancy is not a linear downward vector force. Buoyancy, as Chocolate's pointing out, is an up. And for their helium balloon to go up from the surface of their globe, they need their air to have weight coming down, weight down. That's the thing. So they have no way out of it. When you understand the argument, there's no way out. So, go on, Chocolate.
That's what I used to love about my old job when I used to ask people, well, why does the helium balloon go up? It's like anything that they say, anything that comes out of their mouth is basically, oh, so you're giving me a reason why it's not going down? So not down then, right? And it drives them nuts.
Right, with that, I'm going to say if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
So not weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
the same curvature, where they would tell you things that describe how things are looking flat. Also, not curved then? Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly the same.
About things are not curved when that's your claim is that things are curved. Okay, no problem. Let's keep going. I love it.
They want to detail how flat the place is, right? Then that's their proof of curvature. Do you know what I mean? Are you playing more of the video, Nathan?
I had a Nintendo. I'm just making a thumbnail at this second.
Would everyone like to cover more of the video? Better get a group together against you.
While I'm making a thumbnail, I'm just going to be making a thumbnail for the next 5 minutes.
Arthur, did you say that Jaron comes in defense of Craig about science not proving things?
No, he steers away from the conversation. He was quick to point out that let's move on. Let's not stick to this topic. Let's move to another topic because this is not going anywhere.
But I would say
I'm sorry about the background noise, but someone in my neighborhood is getting married, and people here in India have to know the entire neighborhood known by playing songs on loudspeakers.
I don't even hear it. See, when Jaron sorry?
Please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Jaron is saying, let's move away from this when he gets to that point. Why is he saying that? Because it is going somewhere. If you understand what science is and you understand the scientific method, and it is going somewhere. Because any claims to gravity, perfect, that Craig is going to claim, at any point Kaleb can ask him, do you have scientific proof of that? Any scientific experiments proving that? And Craig is going to go, yeah, right? And then you can hit Craig with, I thought science doesn't prove things, Craig. You know what I mean? Because Craig is going to claim proof, scientific proof. So with Jaron moving away from it was going to stop that situation from happening.
Well,
Jaron is always helping the borders. Go on, Aaron.
So if you do that, that's going to give Craig a stutter.
Yeah.
Kaleb tends to take the longer path in all these conversations, and that is what we discussed during the show also, that when he's claiming something about satellites going around the Earth or the Sun, instead of getting him to point out that orbital mechanics need a flat Earth for your calculations or something to that effect, which we talked about, he goes in a direction which, admittedly, I'm saying that I also used to go in that same direction like 4 years ago, that pictures are not proof of anything. Just because I show you a picture of anything, are you going to believe it? But right now, I'm going to go in a different direction and come to elevation angles or orbital mechanics, the Highway 90.
Yeah.
But once you get there, because everybody can slip up at some point, and when you do inevitably end up in this scenario, you need to be able to fall back on stuff like Brian's dishing out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix once said, I think it was Jimi Hendrix once said, that you got to know all the rules before you can break them when he was concerning guitar.
Yes.
So you can't just break all the rules and state you need a flat plate for that without knowing the background. You have to know the background.
Well, you need a flat plane for that. That's why I said it can't be really formulated into a housekeeping question, because it's a conclusion to all these discussions we've had. You know, it's like the period to the topic.
Yeah, you have to understand the imaginings that they're going to place around their flat plane and how they must use a flat plane. If you just say you're going to need a flat earth for that, it's no good if you don't understand why they're going to need a flat earth for that. Well, you need a flat earth because it's flat, but the point is you're going to need to be able to detail and argue against anything they bring up when it comes to their equatorial plane and other things like that.
Right, to measure, right? To do the actual measurements and the geometry, that's where you need the flat earth. They don't see that.
Exactly, Arwin. Yeah. Remember, when they measure something, you must use a flat plane. Especially when it comes to celestials, because they have to use angles. So every single measurement of anything in the sky that references the Earth, right? Let's just say, I'm not talking about angles between stars, angle that references the Earth, right, directly. It has to be a right angle triangle elevation angle. The very thing they're denying is using celestial navigation. Yet they'll turn around and use it for parallax. It's pathetic.
You know what is really funny? Like, you could actually build like a computer simulator to prove this. Like, let's just say you use the modern virtual reality system, right? So you can actually suspend yourself with 3D into a world and then like do measurements, like just write it in front of you, whatever you're going to use like that to do geometry. And then you can just demonstrate like, okay, here we're going to start out with the flat plane. Now let's see if you can orient yourself with the star sky. It's going to look exactly like how it does, right, in that virtual reality. And then you can just like, do celestial navigation. And then it's like, okay, now let's do it on a globe. And it's actually a geometrical globe, right? And then you're going to find out like, hey, doesn't work. Like, I don't know what to do. It's like you don't know what to do anymore because those actions suddenly don't work, right? So you could do an actual simulation to really put it in people's faces, literally. It's just an interesting idea. And it's doable by now.
That's how they do ray tracing.
Right. Well, all simulations, all computer game levels, especially world experiences, are all on a flat plane, because if they use a globe, it would feel weird. They only start doing such things like if it's like, oh, we're on a small ball or something. If it's like Mario style and everything is small globes, right? That sort of thing. Some games do that. Well, then you're going to like sit on a ball, but it's going to feel weird and surreal. As soon as it's supposed to be real looking, let's just say Skyrim, it's a really detailed, beautiful surrounding environment. Well, guess what that's built in? A flat plane. Very much a flat plane. And that's why it looks so real. That's why it's so amazing looking.
Yeah, and when they do their ray tracing, they use eye level as a horizontal plane, and then they draw lines out from that and call them, rays of light, which is a misnomer. It doesn't exist anyway. It's just how they're taking the 3D into the two-dimensional. They still use a flat plane for it.
Kalib.
LEB.
EB.
EB. Kaleb.
On TikTok.
Hello.
Yeah, it's Kaleb.fe on TikTok.
Yeah.
KALEB.fe.
I've misspelt it. Bummer. Okay.
So this guy uses words like independent variable and dependent variable, but he never pins down Craig on any of his claims about science and the scientific method and gravity, and nor does he use examples which actually have some cause and effect relationship. When asked to give an example of how science proves things, he uses the second law of thermodynamics. So I'm not really sure where his understanding breaks, because when you are talking about independent variable and still not citing an example which demonstrates that, I don't know where you're going with that.
I think he may be one of the Ethereans that asserts that there will be a scientific model one day that can prove the ether.
Oh. So he's conflicted. Well.
Yeah. I think he's a good kid, though. He's just early on in his understanding.
He's hanging around with it.
He's a little Witsit mini-me, is he?
I don't know about that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying he if he's promoting ether and he is connected in some way to Witsit, because the Witsit is the number one ether promoter. Since Bob went, it's Witsit is number one ether promoter. So anyone who wants to know about ether are going to go to Witsit. They're not even going to go to what's his name, the baller, the ball lad. What's his name? He always has
Ken Wheeler.
Ken Wheeler. In this arena, they're going to go to Witsit. That's the thing about it. So Witsit is the person, the go-to person. So if he's promoting ether, then he must be at least watching. I don't know if he is in contact with Witsit, right? I just say he must be watching Witsit. You know, see, you have to understand that Witsit is gaining in popularity outside of YouTube. We don't see it because we're not on TikTok and places, but outside of that, he's gaining. You know, Rumble, TikTok, and all these other platforms, he's gaining popularity in places. And ether, the whole ether argument is gaining in popularity in places you wouldn't be expecting. As I said, my friend who's in Bulgaria, it must be a year and a half now or 2 years ago now, she sent me a thing about what gravity really is, and it was all ether nonsense. Do you know what I mean? And she's Bulgarian, and that's coming directly from the Ballbuster crew. Well, I would like to know, how is Witsit squaring the circle with Jaron? Because Witsit knows that science does prove things. So how is he squaring that circle with Jaron when Jaron continually promotes that it doesn't? How is that working out?
I find it odd, just listening to that debate, how Darren sits there as the mod with the flat earther citing science proving things and the baller denying and taking the same position that Jaron's had. It must be an odd issue for him as the moderator there.
Yeah, because he has to recognize that he must take Craig's side.
Yeah.
That argument. Yeah. Well, your opposition will be right now and again. There's times I've agreed with the borders over some of the stuff flat earthers have said. I go, no, the borders are actually correct about something. Let's just say. And Jaron could say that is one of those times for him, and he's just moderating. But at the same time, Kaleb is somebody who is not really directly connected to Jaron outside of this scenario of him having a debate on his channel. But Witsit is directly connected because they're both globebusters. So how does he square that circle with Witsit? With Kaleb in that situation, he has to accept it, right? Because he's just moderating. But with Witsit, how is he squaring that circle? Because Witsit is never going to deny the scientific method. He can't. So how does Jaron deal with that? I don't expect you to know.
Last time we addressed this, and Witsit say he was going to go tell Jaron that he was wrong about that, and report back to us or something. I don't know.
You're right, Chocolate. You're right. There was talks about that because Nathan said, "Well, you need to go and talk to your buddies Jaron and David Weiss about it."
Indeed. You'll like my thumbnail.
Yeah,
So
I was
people,
distracted by the spelling mistake at first, but yeah, a woman beater. I did. I like the baseball.
No, you mean his name? I corrected that, right?
Yeah, I was distracted by the Kaleb. I didn't see who Kaleb was pitted against. I didn't see how you'd labelled that. Nice.
so people here in India are kind of a fan of this guy. I have heard a few ladies singing praises of his looks also, that he looks like a Greek god. But TikTok has short videos, and as far as I am aware, I'm not on TikTok, but I get a lot of videos from there in my groups. So I have seen a few of his videos, like 1 minute, 2 minute videos, and most of them are talking about conspiracy stuff, Operation Fishbowl and Operation High Jump, and how they are hiding Antarctica, something beyond Antarctica, and how US military already knows about the firmament and they did a lot of experiments, how 1958 encyclopedia talks about the firmament. So most of the videos are regarding this kind of stuff, 2015 stuff.
Well, I'd love to hear
Everybody
more of the
gotta
video.
start somewhere. Sorry, Brian.
No, you go talk about it. I'd say it afterwards.
No, I just said everybody got to start somewhere.
And we'll restart that video.
I
I'd
didn't
like
say
to hear
gravity
more
is
of
a
the
force. I
video.
say gravity creates a force. And just so you're aware, both what Einstein and Newton say are actually the same thing. In fact, if you take Einstein's tensor, you can mathematically break them down to Newton's law of universal gravity in non-relativistic situations. They actually say exactly the same thing, just explained extremely differently. That's all. So let's just be clear about that. But
So
anyway.
Entirely different geometries.
Yeah, but even listen to the way he said it. It was really sneaky. He said, in non-relativistic situations, no. General relativity covers all situations within heliocentrism. That's the claim. That's why it replaced what they call Newtonian mechanics. That's the whole point of it. You can't then claim Newtonian mechanics now and again when it suits you. No, it's either one or the other. Because if you're claiming Newtonian mechanics, then you're debunking special relativity. Because Newtonian mechanics is instant action at a distance. Special relativity and general relativity after it is confined to C, the two-way speed of light calculation. So nothing can move faster than the claimed speed of light within that. But Newtonian mechanics, right, is an instant action at a distance. So there is no... So if the sun in their paradigm moves half an inch, then the globe Earth must be affected by that half inch instantly. There is no time delay. Whereas with general relativity and special relativity before it, then it adheres to C. You can't amalgamate those two at any point. And as soon as you try to change any of Einstein's field equations, they're not Einstein's anymore. As soon as you change one of them, then they're your field equations, not Einstein's. Because how could you change something and then still call it like something that belongs to someone else? You can't. If I'm changing something that belongs to someone else, then it's not that person's work, is it? If Adam paints his kitchen, right, blue, and I walk in and I paint one of the walls green, right, that's not Adam's work. It's not Adam's work anymore. It's me. Nonsense.
Sorry, I got distracted.
So you think mass attracting mass and bendy warpy spacetime is the exact same thing, or are they two separate theories?
They're two separate theories explaining the same outcome.
They're not
well, in fact, that's not my question.
None of them are theories. None of them are scientific theories. They're colloquial theories, not scientific theories.
Never theory, actually, to be honest. Newton didn't propose a theory. Newton just had a law,
hang on,
which was a mathematical...
I want to finish talking. As neither has Newton or Einstein ever put forth a hypothesis for any of their claims. So, not a theory, not a scientific theory.
of something that he saw happening. That was it. Newton, in fact, was very adamant that you don't push a theory because his maths suggested that gravity acted instantaneously, and he didn't like that suggestion. Of course, Einstein came along and explained, no, it doesn't act instantaneously. It would actually act at the speed of light, which is why, under non-relativistic situations, both Einstein and Newton break...
There you go. There you go. This is Craig knowing the answer, knowing how one debunks the other and how they don't work together, trying to fit it in there before Kaleb comes at him with that. Right? He realizes now that Kaleb doesn't understand why they don't work together. He realizes that, and now he's going to throw in the thing that is the debunk of his claim and try and use it as his own claim or some kind of evidence.
So according to him, is all of reality just a non-relativistic situation? Is that what reality is?
Yeah, it's not the point that Brian's, yes, but it's not what Brian's driving at. Brian's driving at the fact that this is confessional debating. So he's sniffing out what his opponent may not know and then dropping it in when it's actually the undoing of his own argument. So he said, oh, well, the two things, gravities, plural, describing the same outcome. But then he goes on to disclaim, as he's just done, how they're fundamentally different.
What he's actually doing is denying Einstein's equivalence principle, which directly addresses the question of why do things fall down. According to Einstein, they don't. They only appear to fall because the Earth comes up to meet them. So from your relative position, it appears that the can of beans fell off the shelf. But what actually happened is the Earth came up to meet the beans. That's his equivalence principle. So Craig doesn't want. None of them want to go there. None of them want to go there. I have yet to hear one bowler claim that. Not one in all these almost heading for 9 years now. Not one. Why not?
Down to exactly the same thing, the law of gravity, m1m2 over r squared.
A mathematical model which doesn't prove anything or prove the existence of gravitation. It's descriptive, not explanatory. You must use English. Hence why we're talking about the two claimed theories that are written in English. We're not talking about a mathematical model. Everyone agrees that things seem to fall. Hold on. I'm still going. Hold on. Everybody agrees that mass falls to the Earth in a vacuum measured by interferometry equipment at an average from 9.77 to 9.83 meters per second squared.
Releases helium balloon, looks up at clouds. So he's an etherite.
We agree on the acceleration rate. Now we must...
What, of gas going up? Do we? No, you and this ball-believing numpty seem to agree on this garbage that isn't true. I wonder why that is, Kaleb.
Prove an isolated cause.
Sorry, Nathan. Vacuum weight. Sorry, go on.
And Kaleb needs to define mass since he's invoking it.
Well,
what a shame.
This is the differentiator, isn't it, of us flat earthers? We've got us here, no need to make a claim, but there seems to be a part of the community that still wants to invoke a downward bias. So they're happy to agree with the ballers on these points. Yeah? Why, I don't know. Because it's contrary to what we know. Release a helium balloon. Let go of one gas molecule. Not going down. But for some reason, it's a bit like the ballers. You have to have this to maintain your paradigm. To maintain your etheric paradigm, you require a downward bias. And if you're going to enter a debate with a baller, needing that, you're already going to start to agree with them on certain things that you shouldn't be doing, just to, not to disprove a ball, but to maintain your paradigm.
So can I get it straight? This guy's regurgitating the Feast of Nonsense, quite into his conspiracies and his fish bowls and his high jumps, and he's had a sudden rise to popularity. Oh, what a shock. So, in line with what they need to fight against, him regurgitating Feast of Nonsense is useful. So hence the rise to fame, so to speak.
Well, the vacuum weight argument, Nathan, also debunks their claims.
Yes, it does. Well, I've just parroted off the old and dusty. Gas go down, go boom, boom to him. Well, your weight in a vacuum concisely demolishes it by example.
For that, I would say that it's relative density, buoyancy, and electrostatics. Electrostatics decides the downward vector because
downward vector.
There we go.
What downward vector?
Incoherent diarrhea.
Yeah, what downward vector?
So we're talking about the clouds, are we again, Kaleb? Yeah.
Got to have a downward vector, yeah, because we've got to have electrostatics. There's got to be, yeah, a reason. All of these things that we've noted in nature, yeah, they all have to mean something to prove an ether. So we jumble them all together to come to the same conclusion that we must have a downward vector as well.
Define electrostatics.
Why is the upward vector always ignored? Why is that?
Because that's in opposition to the.
Should I just go around? Yeah, should I just go around claiming that there's an upward vector for things that go up? Why does that all get left in the corner all by itself or all by its lonesome?
So that's not commensurate with other things observed in nature, such as the supposed electropotential change in one direction. That wouldn't work if I'm trying to jack these two things together to mean that there's a downward vector.
Because our atmosphere is positively charged. So that positive
Atmo, what now?
charge is always seeking equilibrium with the negative charge of the Earth, which is negative to about 500,000 coulombs. So there's a there's a constant seeking of equilibrium, a downpour of electrostatics to the Earth, causing the downward vector and deciding
That's a downpour of electrostatics.
Causing a downward vector. Causing.
Can he please define static?
Yeah. Like, why is it electrostatic? So why is it that? If you go and read this observation in any of the, journals and stuff where they're not describing it as electrostatics. This is an Ethereum hijacking word, which they've still to define, as John's QE's sarcastically pointed out. What's electrostatics? We still don't know. We know what electrostatics is. We know how it's used. Yeah, it seems to have a whole new universe forming, paradigm forming meaning to them that they can't define.
I don't
and that's
actually
just been used there.
I don't actually think that was what Quantum Eraser was driving at in that particular instance, Adam, because he's talking about a downward vector, but with something that's, what was the word? Oh, static.
Yeah, okay.
Static. What does static mean again?
No, that's static electricity. No, that's static electricity. Okay, that would be electrostatics is slightly different. Yeah, this is something that they keep using. This buzzword, like it's a nice word, isn't it? It clearly has an implication, but they refuse to define the implication and deny the kind of mainstream meaning of it. Because if you were to accept the mainstream meaning of it, it would mean the way you use it makes absolutely no bloody sense whatsoever.
I think what goes up and down and which direction that is.
Just one moment, Adam. When you say electrostatics, I didn't, because Whitsitt, I didn't realize this, that Whitsitt was claiming this up until only a couple of months ago. When you say electrostatics, you're not referring to static electricity, as I thought Whitsitt was referring to, because I didn't hear him define it. You're talking about covalent, ionic, metallic, and hydrogen bonding, yes?
Oh, that would be a consequence of some of it, yeah.
Yeah. So do gas molecules have covalent and ionic bonding?
Say that again, Bryce. Sorry.
Do gas molecules, let's just say H2O, like water vapor, whichever, did they have covalent bonding?
Well, a molecule may have a covalent bond, yeah.
Yeah, right. So we know that there is bonding happens within gases. This electrostatics, right? As that this guy and Whitsitt are claiming chooses a downward vector. Now, objects weighed in a vacuum weigh less, which means that these gas molecules and these gas atoms and gas molecules, all these different gases that do have bonding, with the exception of hydrogen bonding and metallic bonding, that they do have covalent and ionic bonding. which means that is the electrostatics they're claiming. Now, when we weigh something in a vacuum, it weighs more, which means that their claim of electrostatics choosing a downward bias is the complete and utter nonsense, because that's electrostatics and it's not choosing a downward bias. It's not choosing a bias in any direction. That's a debunk.
I don't know how they have the nerve to bring up inter or intramolecular bonding when they don't believe in friggin' molecules.
Well, there's another issue, isn't it? And this is part of the contradiction. They're using these terms, which are in relation to the standard molecular model. There are explanations within the standard molecular model that, as you say, refracted, they deny the existence of.
No, Adam, right? Whitsitt accepts the molecular model. He doesn't accept the atomic model. So he accepts H2O, which is 1 hydrogen, 2 oxygen, right? But he doesn't accept the hydrogen and the 2 oxygen. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't accept the hydrogen and 2 oxygen. He only accepts.
So he wouldn't accept the electrostatics of how the molecules comprised.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the best time to pull out your particle accelerator is when you don't believe in particles, isn't it?
Exactly. Right. It's another one of those. It's another smash yourself in the face scenario, because he is claiming electrostatics and claiming the molecular model. Now, electrostatics is the reason. Electrostatics is how they define the bonds that keep H2O gas, water vapor together, right? It's electrostatics. It's the bonds, the covalent bonds that keep that together, right? The H2O. But the H and the 2O are part of the atomic model that they deny.
Right. That's the foundation of the molecular model, is the atomic model. You're denying the foundations of, we built what we built our knowledge upon. It's still just as batshit crazy.
But he's accepting delta X without accepting X. That's what he's been. I got into a bit of that in the debate with him, if I remember correctly. But that's it. He accepts one, but not the other. But he also uses then electrostatics, which is the bonding, as some kind that this electrostatics defines the direction, the bias, the downward bias. Yet electrostatics are part of gas.
You're right, but the intramolecular bonding is what's going to give you your different types of gases. There are no intermolecular bonding between gases. That's why they're free to move randomly and freely in all directions. It doesn't make any sense.
Say four extreme pressures. There will be some intermolecular attraction, but that's under ludicrous pressures.
When you say,
that's
can I just clarify that? When you say there are actually intermolecular, like bonding forces, or are they just squashed together by virtue of them being very close together because of the very high pressure? Is there actually any force bonding them? Actually,
yes,
there is.
Only because you're squashing them together. So then you're going to.
That's what I just said. If
yeah, but Nathan, that's like it's heading for a phase change at that point.
You're forcing it because of the close proximity. So the charges have to play out in a sense.
Let me give it an analogy. If I force two pieces of wood together, right, with a clamp, they're essentially under that scenario that you've just described because they're clamped together. But that's very different to being glued together. And when I say bonded, I mean not forced together by clamps. I mean glued together so that when there's no clamps, they still stay together. But in the case of when you force them into a confined space and they just happen to be butted up against each other, that's not bonded, is it?
Well, it will be if it's becoming a phase change. Like at the bottom, like the easiest way is like at the bottom of, like you might get a can of gas, and at the bottom of it, you might be able to swish around a little bit of liquid gas, right? That's that situation where there's a moment there where for a moment some of them are bonded, by hydrogen bonding. But then they become unbonded. But it's like that kind of thing. We're under a lot of pressure, which will be extreme. Under a lot of pressure, then once they're together, pushed together under a lot of pressure, they will naturally form hydrogen bonds. It's like with clouds condensing water vapor.
It's more
like the water vapor condenses, and then it forms bonds.
Well, the thing that QE's talking about, we watched that video on it where they were firing a laser and then equivocating that to what happens at the center of the molten iron core and stuff. You remember that video? Like, that's not really a natural state that you run across. You know what I mean?
We're not really talking about hydrogen bonds like that, Nathan, in terms of bond formation. When everything's together, the polarization of the molecule has to kind of realign and can realign. So you've got things like London forces, van der Waals, and it's this repolarization of the molecule that's enforced because of the electrostatics that can then form very weak bonds. I think it's London bonds as well, John.
Yeah. Yeah, they're London dispersion forces. Yeah, but we're getting into the weeds where we need not to, because there's no scenario in nature under natural conditions where you're going to have the Atmo is not going to have these conditions. Follow?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has to be induced by man.
Or not in gases. Yeah, not in gases.
Or you could get them like underneath the earth, but they would have to be captured. We're going down an incoherent, non sequitur path. It's nice that you guys have a working understanding. I've been hearing van der Waals forces, London dispersion forces. You're speaking my love language.
I'm keeping very quiet.
I still want to see some more of the downpouring of statics.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, you have to, but it's true. Because remember something else now I must point out, there's something else that Whitson also denies. He also denies the plus and the minus, the plus and minus. He stated he denies the plus and minus. You know, the way there's a negative and positive charge. He's denying that, which is all part of electrostatics. That's how it's explained, via the plus and minus. You know, with the different parts of the molecules and atoms. You know, different positives and minuses.
Yeah, he's denying charge.
Yes. He's denying the thing that, because if he talks about a battery, he'll deny the plus and minus. How can he deny the plus and minus there and say then, is he denying the plus and minus when it comes to electrostatics?
Yes.
Because he says he accepts.
Yes, because he denies the existence of electrons too. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, how do you talk about, charge, which is like valent? You're talking about valency. Like, how do you talk about that without electrons? I don't get it.
Yeah, you don't. This is all convoluted puck. That's all this is.
The delta plus, the delta minus, as the electrons arrange around on the molecule, is the delta plus and the delta minus is created by the alignment and the distribution of the electrons. It's that distribution of the electrons that creates the electrostatics that is being described. This is the trouble with Whitsitt, is he's using a word which denies all of the definition of the word.
Well, that, and he doesn't know the difference between nouns and verbs. Other than that, he's good.
Other than that, everything's great.
Density works out the rest. Do you think that a helium balloon is an anti-gravity machine, Craig?
No. A helium balloon doing what it does is the predictions of gravity.
Why? How?
Because of buoyancy, which is also a prediction of gravity.
So could you replace the equation of buoyancy? Hey, I know you're about to rage. I know you're getting mad. Calm down. Could you replace?
Let him finish that. let Craig finish that answer.
Ask your question. Would you like me to answer your question, Kaleb?
Finish it. Yeah, finish it.
Like talking.
Finish it.
Okay.
Rage.
The actual mechanical description of how a helium balloon rises when there is still gravity is very simple. The air, if you take the same volume of air as the balloon, there's more mass, more density in that area, okay? Which means that if you do the calculations for gravity, there is more force acting on the air than the balloon. That means all the air around the balloon is pulled down with a stronger force.
Yeah, he's done. Brian's got him again.
Got him. Yeah, Brian would have gutted him.
It wouldn't have got to that point with him, but he's
Hold
done
on for the
there,
audience. So the reason the panel are saying that Brian would have him by the balls at this point is because he's essentially saying air has weight, right, Brian?
Yeah, he said it's been pulled down. Sorry, no, of course.
He just said W equals M times G. Just said it again, and he's applied it to his atmosphere.
I just kept the basic. So not down then. But so something going up, like the helium balloon that dude just brought up, that's being predicted to go up by a force, supposedly that's making it go down. So not down then. Okay.
No. Yeah, but right. He's saying that because he's saying that the air is being pulled down more than the balloon.
Sorry, I'm just a bit confused about the balloon. Sorry, I was just let me just clear it up because I need to understand this as well. So, is the balloon in defiance of the incoherent dielectric accelerative downward bias, or what?
The amount that the balloon is being pulled down is not as much as the amount that the atmosphere is being pulled down, because the atmosphere has weight now, not just individual molecules. It's got weight to allow for their description of gravity-induced buoyancy.
Yeah. See,
so hold on a sec. Hey, Brian, your argument applies to the Ethereans then as well.
Yes, that was my point.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
That's what my point was about the helium balloon in defiance of incoherent dielectric accelerative downward biases.
Yeah, that's correct, Nathan. Yeah, but all of air, all of gas is in defiance of their claims, well, especially when they bring up electrostatics. That all of it is, because electrostatics are part of, as Whitsitt will even say himself, all matter is electrostatic. Yeah, that includes his gas. That includes his gas, doesn't it, QE? Right?
Pouring more coals, unwittingly pouring more coals over top of their own heads. Idiots.
Yeah.
All matter is electrostatic because it's all got electrons arranged, which is something we deny the existence of.
Isn't that a fallacy of division again?
Just nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a debunk of either gravity or dielectric acceleration. It debunks both of them. But just for the buoyancy thing, within what Craig is claiming, they have to have the air going down to the Earth via being given a weight via force of gravity for their helium balloon to go up. So when they're claiming buoyancy, as Adam pointed out, they're also inserting W equals mg. G.
Up a long time.
Yes.
There's so many ways you could deconstruct this. It's like a potpourri of avenues of deconstruction. If the air's coming down, then it must be created high in the atmo. Can you point where that is? Where's gas created high in the atmo? I want to see that.
Dielectric superclouds. Sorry.
In the air.
Their Carmen line has a gas generator maker thingy, and it's constantly pinging gas.
Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to do like a show on Ballbusters next time about the double whammy, where we take out their force of gravity and we take out dielectric acceleration with the same thing, which is vacuum waves.
Ooh, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a double whammy.
When would that be?
When did this video take place? I'm surprised at this. Did this happen? When did this happen?
It really would set the toad amongst the tadpoles, though, wouldn't it?
I think this happened in recent days.
In recent days? How did I miss it? This
not even 24 hours ago.
Oh, no wonder. This has a serious treatment written all over it. Even though you guys are giving it the serious treatment, I'm saying, like an official treatment.
Absolutely.
Please continue. Or not.
Than the balloon, which creates a force in the opposite direction, directly perpendicular to the direction of gravity. That is buoyancy. FB equals rho VG.
The balloon goes up because it's less dense than the medium that encompasses it. It has nothing to do with the fake gravity assumption that you make. And if you look at the buoyancy equation, you can replace little g with little a, acceleration, and it all works out just the same.
Yeah, but that g is due to gravity, and gravity has been substantiated in many. So
many
mountains ignore
of
the
evidence
experiments and say that they don't do the thing that they claim.
Good.
Many mountains of evidence. Which gravity is he talking about?
Why did he invoke perpendicular? Perpendicular to what?
Horizontal plane of
Did
reference.
he say experiment?
No,
Did he say experiments again?
That's the bit I wanted to go back to, John. Absolutely correct. Without realizing, we talked about this in the live show, didn't we? It's not going to cause Craig cognitive dissonance to invoke a horizontal plane of reference as he's just done. So, do you want to ask your question again? Why would he prove a flat Earth with that?
Yeah, why are you invoking if you believe it's sphere? You don't have perpendicular on a sphere. That's just not how it works.
What if he said perpendicular to the axis of rotation? What would you say to him then?
You're using the equatorial plane at that point. Like what are you? You're still using a plane.
Yep. But he probably doesn't even realize it when he says that.
What kind of 2015 respawn is this? Is that where we're at now?
Yeah.
Haven't we killed all this back 2016, 2017? So this is just, I don't know. So, Jaron, are you just respawning this? We have to go all back over this again for your dumbass?
He's keeping the ball alive, Kiwi.
Gotcha.
Well, we're outside that cycle, aren't we? Like, that's what we figured out. Nathan pointed it out when he was saying we're advanced heliocentrism experts. We're outside this cycle that they're playing this out in. We kind of, what is that word Arwen uses?
Professional debating.
We transcended. We've transcended this level of ignorance.
I just want people to start recognizing the sorry.
Did Nathan step away for a coffee?
No, I was just waiting for the conversation to naturally come to an end, and then when it did, Chocolate started talking again. That's okay.
Nathan's just being awkward.
I'm not being awkward.
Yeah, I was just saying, I feel so sorry for the upward bias that nobody talks about, left all by itself in the corner. It's so sad because I don't understand why people keep saying it's downward bias when things don't all go down. It's very weird.
Hey.
Well, we only use the upward.
Again.
We only use the upward bias when we're playing silly with the upward rising earthers.
Okay. let's not forget the neutral bias. The things that aren't going up or down. Let's not forget that. I mean, I don't know, man. I thought we were in the age of inclusion. What's going on?
Yeah, what's up with Switzerland? We need a neutral bias.
Exactly.
Okay, you ready to move to play now?
And if it was electrostatics, then sorry. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Give me 1 sec.
Getting over a dumbass,
by the way.
But if you're claiming that electrostatics is a large part of it, then that means there would be well, you said that it was a part of it, right?
It
Yes
just
or no?
decides the downward vector. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Do you need me to explain it to you?
And that would be a large part of it. The downward vector is a very large part of why things do what they do. But the downward vector would, if it's all to do with electrostatics, would have different forces applied based on the materials because of different charges. But also we can isolate things like that by measuring the charges of things and seeing if it's that. And also we can do experiments to see if gravity acts in the opposite direction to up and down, like the Cavendish experiment. The Cavendish experiment shows that mass attracts mass horizontally as well.
Cavendish experiment. Let's all go back to 2015. All that's it. He's just making shit up that he usually does.
But he can
You
now.
wouldn't know what an experiment was if it climbed up his arse and started kicking footballs wrapped in Carolina Reaper lace concertina wire. He is a dumbass. Pretender clown fraud. Craig,
We've got
get your
two.
ass out of here, dumbass.
We've got two fraudulent claims now, none of which are demonstrable, provable. So Craig's happy now, surely. If any flat earthers going to argue with him that it's not Newtonian or Einsteinian gravity that creates down, it's this generalized bias caused by an electropotential between the Earth and the atmosphere, yeah, then it's just as unprovable a claim. Why would you're supposed to be debating ball Earth, not trying to describe your unproven reality. As soon as you enter that, you're done, aren't you? You're in no better position than him. In fact, you just give him all the ammunition, particularly for the neutral to listen to ridicule a flat earther.
Correct.
And Craig also just denied center of mass because he said the Cavendish non-experiment, what he called it an experiment, proves that there's gravitational attraction horizontally, right? No, there is no horizontal gravitational attraction within any gravitational attraction claims. It's all center of mass.
But that's his flair, isn't it? And that's what he sent out there in that conversation. He's clearly not comfortable, Craig. So he's going to direct it to Cavendish because he can waffle all day long about Cavendish. No matter what you put to him, he's got patter for that, which is why he sent that flare up. Oh, let's just get somewhere where I'm a bit more comfortable. But you can't go anywhere comfortable if you're trying to claim an alternative downward force to his downward force.
Quick, say something.
Exactly, Adam. Because and Chocolate's right. Quick, say something. That's where he's at. Like the both of them are trying to both beat each other to prove the same thing that doesn't happen in reality. Both of them are doing the same stupid thing. One is as bad, if not worse, than the other. And what Craig just said there about horizontal gravitational attraction, I mean, come on. That shows that you're just straight out lying. Cavendish never measured G. There was no measurement of G or M. It's not correct, QE. I still have the citation. No measurement of G or M.
That's what Craig wants right now, that argument. Don't give it him. If he throws a flare out like that, just don't go to that subject. You know when he's doing that, He's scared of the topic at hand. That's why he's thrown a new one out there, an easy one for you to bite on. He even made the statement, "Oh, you can show gravity sideways." Yeah, just to give you something extra to chew on. Please take this bone, is what he's saying.
Well, I wonder if they're actually getting worried that dielectric acceleration will overtake them. I wonder if that's in their minds.
Meanwhile, not down then. Oh, okay.
Exactly, chocolate. So horizontal then, up then, not down, right? And but down.
Exactly.
Well, matching the predictions of FG equals GM1 M2 over R squared, so much so that you can actually calculate the universal gravitational constant when you do the experiment. And if it was electrostatics, according to your explanation, that would mean that the two masses, which are the same, would have the same charge and repel each other, except they don't, they attract each other. So it can't be electrostatic.
No. Does the Cavendish experiment always work every single time with 100% accuracy?
When it's set up properly, yes.
How do you isolate electrostatics from the apparatus?
You check to see if there is electrostatics being, that you can put, for instance, if you put it in a box.
Yes, Adam.
Just on that, when the Cavendish is set up, even if whenever they do that, and this is what that paper that I did, no, it never ever does it. What you do is you make all sorts of other calibrating things, and then all your multiple results, you kind of subtract and hope you're still left with an attraction. And that then proves it. But no, he never demonstrates it. He's only ever calculated the effect.
Didn't Craig say earlier that science doesn't prove anything, and now he keeps going on about experiments?
This isn't science. This is the Cavendish parlor trick that he's on about, but he's claiming it does the same thing every time. No, it doesn't.
And he said that both the balls would be all the same size and density. That would mean that they wouldn't, like, it's the bigger attracts the smaller. That's how that works. So the bigger, what he would claim to be a mass, attracts the smaller, what he would claim to be a mass. It's not two masses of equal size are attracted to each other. That's not the case.
You could put something that is susceptible to movement of electrostatic energy, like tissue paper hanging down, to see if it's moving at all, if there's any electrostatics in that box. But again, if it was electrostatics, okay, then the two masses, which are usually of the same material, would have the same charge. And the same charge repels, not attracts. But what we find in the Cavendish experiment, every single time when it's set up properly, is that the masses attract. They never repel. They always attract. If it was electrostatics, they would repel.
What is polarization in the context of electrostatics?
Sorry, Nathan.
It would be changing the direction.
You don't know what polarization is?
Well, it would be changing the north to south. It would be changing the direction of the charge.
You think there's a north to south when talking about electrostatics? Seriously, Craig.
Scientism. That's why I stopped saying north to south. I've said the direction of the charge.
See, the trouble here is Craig's probably got a better idea of electrostatics than what these guys are denying and then using their own definition for. It'll be interesting. Yeah, because Craig makes a valid point there. Even in the Cavendish, if these two things are the same. I mean, we're talking electrostatics. This is the other thing. He's talking about surface charge of the mass, not of the electrostatics of the molecule.
Cool. I think I'm going to leave
It's
it
like
there,
it's
though.
like listening to two McDonald's chefs talk about cordon bleu.
Perfect way to round out. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!